Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cross Commission podcast. I am Jake Nazar. I am joined by Saif Fakadu. Saif, how are we doing tonight?
Jake, yeah, talking about the weather a little bit, concerned about this weekend, but got to enjoy the playoffs. Yeah, I just kind of joked around last year, when Hopkins didn't even make it to selection Sunday. I was like, I could just really enjoy the tournament without having it's always funny because never really happy when they win. It's just relieved that we didn't lose. It's probably consistent with a lot of fans out there. But yeah, with the playoffs, it was enjoyable just to not have any stakes in it. Obviously, I would have preferred it, but it's like that. Like I said, the anxiety level, stuff like that. It's good to just place your bets and just let the chips fall where they may. So.
Yeah, snow. Yeah, I'm hearing 2 feet, potentially, maybe a foot. It's gonna be some snowbanks piled up deep on the sidelines week 1.
That's it's so tough part. It won't warm up. We had that, and then it was 3 days in the 40s or something.
Yeah, it's gonna be cold. I mean, I'm the 10-day forecast. This is just I'll do for here. Give you an idea of what it'll be like. Jesus wept. On the 29th Thursday, the low is -3. The high is 30. So I don't know if it's particular wind current or something, but that's 2 days before first face-off. Oh, brother. Saturday, January 31st, high of 29.
A sunny 29, though.
Yeah, true. Probably cloudy. Probably cloudy, sunny 29. Doesn't look like any snow.
As long as we get some sun in there.
It's not going to hit above. It's saying there's not going to be a high above 30 that the next week, because we're talking about the snow that's supposed to be hitting the East Coast this weekend. Doesn't look like we're going to get a high above 30 the whole next week.
It's pretty much freezing until the first week of February.
That snow is just going to be,
closing out January under the freezing mark.
I can't wait till that's the whole discussion. The first during the games, it's wow, it was really cold. Yeah, guys, maybe we should be playing games in March and not, but we're not gonna fix it. No, just complain. just yell about it. Just be like, man, this doesn't really make much sense. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. But we're just gonna keep doing it anyway.
We've tried nothing. We ran out of ideas.
I don't. Really? Did you? What are you doing
earlier? See if they started it this weekend. Or no, I was going to say, the weekend that we just passed, there'd be no snow. But
that's the logic it seems like we're going to get. Oh man.
But they need the content. The post Super Bowl, really nothing. Got NBA and hockey. Well, this year's
that's my point.
Olympics
after the Super Bowl. Not let's start it. There's going to be 3 weeks of games before the Super Bowl.
You got to build into it.
We did this for this the insane thing is that they did this for 40 years until Richmond and High Point, all these guys teams, and we're like, oh, what's nice down here in North Carolina? We can play games in February. And everyone else was like, yeah, we can do that too. No, no, Dartmouth, you can't. No, you're in Boston. Why are you playing games the first week of February? Not those two teams. Those just came to mind.
I know. I hear you. Would. I think the only way it could probably be possible because, I don't think they want to push it into June. I mean, the tournament and the season because recruiting people just don't want potentially half or 3/4 of June to take up their lives.
I got a crazy idea.
Yeah. So this is one salvo. Just because I don't mind if it starts early, but if they did do a hard date, you would kind of have to have all the teams agree to 3 midweek games, because then if you did that, then you could still stick with whatever the tournament schedule you want without really moving it, so everyone can be done by June, do the recruiting stuff, and just being off from the job.
Well, here's the thing: if you did that, you would probably have to get more uniform schedules because maybe the teams that play 15 games don't play 15 games anymore. Or like, let's see. I mean, how many? All right, let's say we started. The Ivy starts this year, the 14th or the 21st.
Yeah, Valentine's Day weekend.
Yeah. Okay, the 14th. If everybody started that week, you'd get 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 weekends before conference tournament play. So you get 12 weekends. So there you go. There's 12 games. Everybody could play that. Or if you want it to be like the max is 14 or 15 or whatever, all right, you get 2 midweek games. Or play 2 games in 3 days. Double up. Friday, Sunday.
Yeah, Friday, Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I don't think that's too crazy. I understand. I get the point about like these players having a week off and everything like that. I get that. You do have pretty big rosters still. I mean, I know it's the house and limited to like 48 or 50 or whatever, but nonetheless, it's still a good amount of guys. Play more guys. Like play your whole roster. Get everybody involved. And so I think that would work. If you started March 1st, if you started March 1st, you probably have to move the season back, which I'm not opposed to, but I hear you out, and I think you're correct. They don't want to move it back any further. If you started March 1st, you'd have to push it back, 2 more weekends, I think? Because, yeah, just add 2 midweek games and push it back 2 weekends, and I think you're set.
I mean, this year for Princeton, yeah, they would lose 3 games.
How about this?
These are March 1st.
How about this? Make it depend on the calendar. So this year, not March 1st, let's say either a universal date of the last week in February or the first week in March. So this year we'd start February 28th. Maybe like in that 4-day window, like February 28th, something is like the first. If you want to play a midweek game the last week, okay. So let's say we start February 28th. That'd give us 10 weekends before Selection Sunday, 11 counting conference tournaments. You push the season back 2 weeks. I think that gets you in the ballpark. I think you'd have to add midweek games. I'm not, I don't think that's the end of the world. Because if you have 12, you'd lose 2 weekends. You'd have to have 2 midweek games because we have 14 weekends right now. So I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, but I know that there's an increasing hesitancy to play midweek games, especially amongst these power conference programs. But you did it before. They did it before. I mean, I know the arguments. I understand. Like, I understand. Like, is the game more athletic and more physical and all that today? Yes, it is. The level of athleticism in the game right now is look, we've been doing this for 10 years. The level of athleticism compared to when we started doing this is like markedly different. There's just no. What was it? The Hopkins boards always complained about in the late 2010s was like, the midfielders were too small or whatever. Like there's no small midfielders anymore. Like these dudes are all, like what? At least 5'10", 5'11", 185, like, I mean, there's still some like Ryan Goldstein, but he's, ridiculously fast. So, it doesn't matter. I still think you can do it. If you have to do it twice,
That Valentine's Day. Honestly, Valentine's Day to Memorial Day. Because I don't think you could do March without moving the schedule. And I do feel that's enough. So I hear mid-February.
Yeah, everybody start at the Ivy date.
That's because then it's like you can do 13 games as Princeton just did without any like midweek games, from what I can tell. Yeah, I don't think there's any midweek here for Princeton. It's somewhat short Friday.
They're doing North
Carolina.
They're doing that
Monday.
The Syracuse UNC.
But like I think everyone should prepare to play 2 games in 3 days because that's your goal.
Exactly. Yes, that's you're doing it. You're gonna have to do it twice come the end of the season anyway. So you should probably
just get used to it. So I think that's
here's a great idea. You can do it. Schedule it strategically. Like, here's the awesome idea. Hopkins, Towson, Loyola, whoever married to get them in there. Guess what? You guys can all play each other on one weekend, and you can play 2 games in 3 days. And Hopkins can play 1 home game, and then on Sunday they have to drive 10 minutes to Ridley. Towson can drive, 30 minutes to Homewood. There you go. Boom. Philly, St. Joe's, Penn, boom. I solved your problem for you right there. 2 games in 3 days, and you can do it with a local, setup. I just Richmond and UVA get, maybe have to add High Point, make it a little more difficult. But there you go. You just solve the problem.
Bellarmine, connect to Kentucky. Get Bellarmine,
That's a hike.
It's doable. Like I said, I'm not married to January starts.
Mid-February. If we want to keep it this way, I think mid-February is the way to go. If you don't want to make significant alterations, mid-February gets you mostly out of the real difficult weather stuff. There's obviously chances, but post mid-February, snow is not likely to be a significant, inhibitor, postponement. The weather is likely to be, doable. So it's cold, but it's doable. I argue for the significant alteration just because I'm like, let's get people going to these games. Who's gonna want to go to Hopkins Robert Morris on January 31st with it's 25 degrees out? If Hopkins played a game in April, I guarantee the floor. If Hopkins played a game, game in mid-April on a 70-degree day in Baltimore, the floor is 2,000 because it's a thing to do. You can just go sit outside in 70-degree weather and walk around.
Yeah.
Or at these places like Penn State and UVA and on Notre Dame where they have the burn out there and the kids and everything. It's just it's such an easy sell. But I think yours is we can at least do Valentine's Day. At least I think that's all.
It usually falls within I know it's third Monday in February, but President's Day just sort of that weekend. It's kind of have a natural 3-day weekend. For a lot of schools are going to be off anyway, so it feels like a good kicking off point.
I like that. Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll see. I know there have been some scrimmages that are Hopkins and St. Joe's were going to scrimmage this weekend. They got ahead of the weather. They moved it from Saturday to February at noon. And because it's gonna be cold. I think it's high of 18 degrees. We'll see if some other ones. I know Maryland and Georgetown are scrimmaging. Ohio State's going to UNC. That's going to be interesting. For scrimmage, I mean, I feel like they at least have to move it indoors. Which it's a little bit. I mean, it's a little bit for some of these scrimmages are usually they're open to the public, so anybody can go. Some of them might have to get closed and moved around, things like that. So we'll see how that plays out. Safety. The polls are out. Our poll dropped on Monday. The Inside Lacrosse Media poll dropped today. I believe, if I am not, my eyes do not deceive me. I've looked at the poll. I don't know if I've looked at it in full, but I've kind of I think I saw it in full. I believe that IL's top 20 and our top 20 feature the exact same 20 teams.
I think you're right. Yeah. Albany, Michigan, Rutgers, towards the bottom, and they do have 1,000. Our bottom four. But we do have BU.
They got
Who
BU
is
as
in
well.
there,
They
17.
got BU's
So
at
we got,
17.
we have, Rutgers, 1,000, Albany, BU, Michigan, Albany.
Yeah, from there,
1,000.
it's the same. It is the same set of
We
teams.
pretty much are very much aligned.
Yeah.
Hopkins at 15. They got the Hopkins at 15. They have Virginia at 14. We have Harvard at 14 and 13 for Virginia. They have
Army 12, Duke 11, Richmond, Ohio State are
we
flipped.
got a tad or higher, but we also just have Richmond and them just.
The only difference is Cornell. That's the only. I'm pretty sure Cornell was like the only team separated by like more than one spot compared to.
And 4 first place votes. I don't think. Yeah, we would be unanimous. Who's the highest?
You are not, and you are one of them. Which surprised, because you are always the one I know who goes with the
defending champ. I don't know why I did. But I think the loss of Curse. I kind of broke away from that a little bit.
I was thinking about this today. I want to give someone credit for this. I want to give Ryan credit because IO has Cornell 4th, and I remember when we did the preseason, the fall ball a couple months ago. I had Cornell 4th as well. Because I was like, that's the lowest I can rank the defending champion.
Yeah.
And then Ryan came in, he's like, I got Cornell ranked 7th. I'm like, whoa. It's just bold. Like, just out there, ethical, honest. And I was like, you know what? Like, let me think about this. Do I think Cornell is a top 4 team? No. Then why am I ranking them 4th? Like, it's not to say I don't think Cornell is going to be bad. I don't. I think they're going to make the tournament again. I think they're having a good year. But I think I had them ranked 7th. Yeah, I think they're probably a quarterfinal type team, at least to start the year. Well, that's where I should rank them then. Now, I'm not saying that. I'll be honest. I don't see the argument to rank Cornell first, aside from they're the defending champions, so I'm going to rank them first. I really don't. That's like the only argument. I mean, if someone's listening to this and rank them first and they disagree, they think they're definitely the best team in the country, I'll hear it out. But to me, the argument really seems to predicate on they're going to be, and it's like, I don't know, Ryan doing that just like alleviated me of all my 4th, I can't, like, they're the champion. Ryan said, no, I'm like, yeah, like, I think they're just, that's where I think they should be ranked, so that's where I'm going to rank them.
It's a Nixon goes to China moment. Ryan could say that.
Only Ryan.
Only Ryan.
It just cleared.
Yeah, it gave us permission structure for us to go forward.
Permission structure, exactly. It was perfect. It's on it. So, yeah, Cornell 4 first place votes is wild. I don't know. That's just, I never saw that come. I didn't know. I know you always did that. I didn't know that many people did like that. That's, yeah, and it feels so just because Princeton's got 1, UNC's got 1, Cuse's got none, which provoked some response. That was weird. Is that really that? I saw some people be like, man, if you're Cuse, if you need some motivation, I'm like,
bulletin board material. You're only 4th in the country.
They're ranked 3rd. The lowest they were ranked. The lowest they were ranked on any ballot was 6th. I don't know. Them being ranked 6th feels like more like bulletin board. Which, listen, even 6th is like, wow, the lowest you got ranked is 6th. It's like, is it really bulletin board material to rank them for? I don't.
Do you need bulletin board material? Or
no,
that's the other part.
No. But also,
I just don't. You have the odds-on favorite to win the Tewaaraton, a stacked team that comes back with at least knowing that they have reached the Final Four, and it's like, all right, now we're hungry for that type of thing. The Dome is rocking. We've been saying that all last year. It's just like feels like the 80s in there. It's like a rock show again. This is your natural position. at Syracuse. To be
Yeah,
like the top
exactly. Yeah, where you want
that's
to be.
you're not like anything. You don't need to prove anything. You're most NCAA titles. This is like your you know birthright almost. I think to a lot of fans,
Yeah,
for 25 years they made the Final Four straight. You know what I mean? And then all
yeah.
the titles in there. So it's just like, whereas if anything's a return to form, and we don't need to know what's important. Like
And
we
it's
should
nice
be
that,
motivated up ourselves already.
yeah, it's like senior class, final year, trying to get to the trying to win it all. It's the only thing left.
I mean, I get like getting an edge, the Jordan thing, like just something that. But I
Yeah, I
think
get.
in that locker room they don't need that at all.
No.
They're like who cares?
And I also just don't think it's that disrespectful because to me it's like, well, if they're going to be number one, they had to be ranked above Maryland. And do I think you can argue Syracuse will be a better team than Maryland this year? Sure. There does feel like there is a little bit of like to be the man, you got to beat the man thing there though. You haven't beaten them in like 15 years. So it's like if Syracuse, look, we're gonna find out. Syracuse can play Maryland in the Dome in like 3 weeks. If they win, Syracuse will probably be the number one team in the country. Boom. For like no questions asked, question answered, period, point blank. It does feel like listen, maybe we can maybe we can wait till then. It's like I think that's how most people saw it. I think probably is you know this is where, and listen, if you want to take that argument and say Syracuse should be ranked above Princeton, now granted those teams haven't played as much. They've only played like twice, but fair. I think that'd be fair. Syracuse again. Syracuse, I think you and Chris ranked Syracuse second. That was their highest ranking. Again, they're like their range is so small, 2 to 6. Everyone agrees they're going to be a Final Four type team this year. So yeah, I just didn't think it was that crazy to me. Like they didn't get a first place vote. Princeton got one. UNC got one. So Maryland got 17 of 23, and again, Cornell got 4, which feels a little because and Cornell's IL had this cool thing where they showed the range of like the highest vote and the lowest vote the teams got. Cornell's lowest vote was 9. So that gives you an idea. Syracuse's lowest vote was 6. Princeton's lowest vote was 4. Maryland was ranked first or second on every ballot. So yeah. This gets into another point, Safe, that I wanted to kind of touch on, unless you had anything else on the poll.
No, this is great. Yeah, please.
I also been kind of talking about this, and I'm not like calling them out, just they're the ones who I see kind of referencing it, and I feel like it's interesting discussion kind of fodder because I don't really agree with it. We've been talking about this as a quote wide open season. And I think even from their poll, I'll just take right there, a season in which it is wider open than usual. I wanted to get your kind of take on this. Does this season, is it really more wide open than usual? Maybe it depends on your definition. Maybe there's a different. I think there's. So let me just put out I'll say what and then I'll go to you. I think there's a clear set of 3 teams at the top, at least on our of us 5. Every Maryland, Syracuse, Princeton were 1, 2, 3 in some order on all 5 of our ballots. They never got ranked lower than 3. Princeton didn't get ranked lower than 4 in the IL media poll. Maryland was not lower than 2. The lowest Q scout was 6. I think if you go by the points, it's always a good kind of indicator. There's a pretty big kind of gap there. Maryland has 454. It's 420 to Princeton, 413 to Cuse. There's a 43-point gap from Syracuse to Cornell, from 3 to 4, which is about the gap from Cornell to a little bit less than the gap from Cornell to Penn State, 4 to 7. Someone ranked Penn State 19th, by the way, which, again, this is why I wish people would go back and post their polls again like they used to, just because I think it's good. Like, it's good for people to, share why and kind of outline their reasoning. I think it's good. It's always good conversation fodder. Penn State being 19th, as low as 19th, is kind of wild to me. They've made the 3 straight tournaments. They've been in the Final Four 2 of the last 3 years. I don't know. But so yeah, there's a gap after Syracuse on down. So it feels to me like there is a set of 3 teams at the top that are kind of clearly. I think if you polled those 23 people that vote in the media poll, if you polled us, and we'll talk about our national champion predictions and Final Four and everything like that on Friday live, around 7 or 8 o'clock. Go to our YouTube channel. We'll be doing our season preview show. So make sure that'll be live on YouTube. I think if you ask me, I think a good 75 to 80% at least of the media poll people, or just if you polled any kind of media people in the sport, I think they would have Maryland, Princeton, or Syracuse as their national champion. It feels to me like those 3 are kind of viewed in like a group at the top. Then I think there's a group of like a step down from them, not a big step, but a kind of step of about 4 to 5 teams who if you told me this team was your pick to win the national championship, I'd say I see it. North Carolina, Georgetown, Notre Dame, Penn State, maybe Cornell in there. It's like 4 to 5 teams there that I could see like really challenging those top 3. Then from there, I think it gets into kind of your preference. Maybe you think Ohio State's going to take another step. Richmond. Maybe you think there's a big bounce back for Virginia and Hopkins and all them and Duke. But that's how I see it. Is I think there's a clear 3, and then I think another step down. There's about a group of 4 or 5. Now, maybe the view is like it's wide open if we think there's like 7 or 8 teams that can win the championship. That's fair. I think maybe you could make that argument. I just think, man, if Maryland's getting 17 to 23 first place votes and they're not ranked lower than second on any ballot, it kind of feels like we have a clear favorite. Like that to me feels like I'm not saying they're an overwhelming favorite. I don't think they are, but it does feel like people have kind of coalesced around Maryland being a favorite. And so I don't know. I don't get now. I said this. Sorry, I'll let you go. I said this. I tweeted this on Twitter. Maybe it's because we've done this before, where we push like it's going to be a wide open season, and then it wasn't. So I'm just a little gun shy. I don't know. I've seen wide open seasons. I go back. One of the first years I really followed the sport was 2013, where I maintain it's probably the most wide open year there's maybe ever been. Syracuse was the number 1 seed, and they had like 4 losses. That was the year Duke came from 7th to win the championship. Just a bunch of teams got to number 1 that year. There's another one I know for a lot of people, maybe newer to the sport, 2019 is the year they kind of look to, which still had Penn State was number 1 for months. But you did have a bunch of teams kind of in the mix that year, 2019. Penn had an awesome year. Yale was the defending champion. Virginia came back. So I've seen what a wide open year looks like. I don't know that this is. I don't know. It doesn't give me that vibe. Am I off? Do you think what's your read?
I think it's 2 things. You're right with your take about like maybe it's not as wide open as kind of proceed. I think there's maybe 2 reasons for that. Maybe a year after that, but we're still with like those super team era. So
the
familiarity with like those big programs and they're bringing back like that just. I think kind of just like have almost like a gravitational pull that we're like, oh, the Virginia is bringing back Connor, Maryland, the defense, it's just like storylines, Notre Dame, the Kavanaugh, that thing you could just kind of bank on for potentially like 5-6 years. COVID to pretty much the end of last season, like that you kind of had this. You always had these storylines that like kind of continuing from last year and like these classes.
I think we do have that this year though too.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's just like
I get what you mean.
Maybe not the depth and like the number of teams and less like
and the big names.
Yeah, it was like Maryland, Notre Dame just banging it out.
Selena is like the favorite for the Tewaaraton, and I don't disagree with that. I don't mean this to knock on Spalina whatsoever. It's different than when it was like Connor, Brennan O'Neill, Pat Kavanaugh, Jared Bernhardt, like for like 2-3 years in a row. That like Connor, Kavanaugh, and O'Neill, and then there were some other guys who got in there, but those 3 cursed. Those 3 were duking it out for like 3 years in a row. It's a little different.
I'm looking at the shout out to IL with their update. The one thing is kind of cool. You can kind of go through the polls in previous years. So I was looking at your point, Bill, like is this as wide open? Like, just the discrepancy in the amount of teams. So last year, right, you had 16 votes for Notre Dame, 6 votes for Duke's, 2 votes for Virginia. Sorry, that's 2024. 2025 preseason. I'm just looking at that.
Notre Dame had all but one.
Yeah, exactly. 19. 2023 preseason, Virginia had 14, Maryland had 8, Georgetown with 1, Notre Dame with 3. Cornell also was in the top 5, but didn't get any first place votes. So kind of a little bit more of a distribution there. 2022 preseason poll, 19 for Virginia, 1 for Maryland. The 2021 preseason poll is a little weird, doesn't show at all, but it shows like the first points, and it's like maybe it's just off, but it's Duke there was a rank 1. 2020 preseason better. Penn State had 11 first place votes. Virginia had 7. Yale had 1. Maryland had 1. But similar to what you're saying, like they're like kind of maybe there's a little bit of distribution, but it's kind of concentrated with like 1 or 2 teams primarily. And the numbers are startling.
Here's a good example for me. 2018. Maryland Duke got go ahead. What was the person?
No, it was that 2019 as well. But yeah, 2018 preseason. Looking at that one right now, I was just gonna forgive me. It's just page not loading.
No, I got it.
Duke 12, Maryland 10, Albany 6, Denver 1.
That's a pretty it's
4
only
teams in the 500s, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like that to me is I think more people voted at that time too, maybe, but 29 people voted versus 23. But that to me is like one team has 12, one team has 10, then we got a team with 6, maybe like a clear 4, but a kind of real split of opinion in there between who's kind of like at the top. 2017 even a good year. 18 for Carolina, 7 for Maryland, 8 for Denver. That's as far back as it goes, but that to me is a little more
It's funny. Someone did have Cornell number 1 last year preseason. Shout out to that standout. 22 for Notre Dame, 1 for Cornell last year.
Yeah, that's standard going in. It makes. But I honestly was Notre Dame that big of a favorite last year? You think going in?
I think we made points that it was like the weight of all of it, and just like they just weren't coming in with the ammo that they had going into the 2022 season, like 2022, for like kind of their zenith season. What am I thinking of? 2023 season was kind of their zenith. I think going into 2025, like the 2024 team obviously won to help it get the back-to-back, but like 2025 team just didn't have like as much depth as they had for those 2 previous title games. And I just think like, I definitely thought Notre Dame had a good chance as any to like win it, and being the defending champ and still having what we thought was a pretty formidable team. Honestly, but for Penn State comeback, that they now have the record for most consecutive tournament wins, are in their 3rd Final Four, potentially their 3rd straight title game appearance. With against ifs and buts. I did not think at all unreasonable for them to be number 1 and prohibitive.
No, not at all. It just felt more to me like they were
maybe a little bit on reputation. Like I said, I think like the just everything the Notre Dame show, like it was like in it was Notre Dame's block. Until they missed the tournament in 2022. Coming back with a vengeance in 2023.
They were the story of lacrosse for like 3 years in a row.
Yeah, and it's just like it revolved around South Bend, the football team watching them, just all the fans. That scene in Philly, I always go back to that. The title game. That parents, just felt like just a wave of green and gold. That 2023 season, like I said, like that felt like zenith. We revenge of 2022, did it again in 2024, and I was like, yeah, like they just had the juice. I was just like, if we're betting on like program strength, I was like, yeah, to me, it made sense Notre Dame being number 1 going in 2025 season. Just adding all that, just like just.
Here's, I think, a way of looking at it. I think some of the good ways of like telling maybe wide open is not even the preseason poll, but like once we get about a month or a month and a half in, how many teams are being ranked number one? Like how many teams have a case where it's not clear who the best team is? The last couple of years, we've really been in a situation where by mid-season, it's been very obvious who the best team is or who the best 1 to 2 team. Last year, Cornell and Maryland were 1 and 2 for. There were only 3 teams who got to number 1 last year.
I remember you called Notre Dame in like week 8 of 2024, right? Wasn't it?
So Notre Dame's 24. I
remember this one, like it was like before the April. You're like Notre Dame's the best team in the country. Like it's not.
That was yeah. I mean that was honestly. That was the most. 22 Maryland is the only other comparable I would say with that, where it was like maybe 2014 Duke a bit, but even they've lost a bit more. Notre Dame was just so clearly better than everybody else in 20.
That's the thing, the gap between them and everyone else.
The gap was just substantial. It was pretty obvious. Like when Army got to number 1, it kind of felt like they were just holding Notre Dame's spot, like for a couple of weeks, and that's how it was. 2024, Notre Dame lost week. Was it week 2? Yeah, and then week 3, Duke got to number 1, and Virginia had 9 first place votes. Maryland had 1. Week 4, Denver actually got to number. Week 4, early on, it looked very. For about a month there, it looked really. Denver had 17 first place votes. Hopkins got to 2 and had 4. Army had 4. Duke had 1. And then after week 5, Army had first place with 22 first place votes. Army was again week 6. By week 7, Notre Dame had taken it back, and there were only 2. Virginia got 8 first place votes. By week 8, Notre Dame was off and running, and that was it. 2023 had this too, where like there was that first couple weeks where it was like, oh my god, all these top teams are losing. Even after a month there, Virginia was kind of clearly out in front, and it was just Virginia or Notre Dame kind of going back for most of. And then Duke got in there as well. Those 3 ACC teams. 22 Maryland is obviously just way out, But like 2019 does have this a bit, because Loyola got to number 1 very quickly. Where with Pat, because Pat was just, it was the Pat show for 4 to 5 weeks there. And then Towson beat them. I was at that game. One of the coolest atmospheres I've ever been at. Super packed crowd at Unitas. Pat was the guy. And so seeing him in person felt like it was an event. And obviously it was a local rivalry. Towson beat Loyola and got to number 1, which is, I think you could argue in some ways maybe the height of the NADLN. Like the Final Four is obviously the kind of like getting to number 1 might be the like high point of the NADLN era. Like, getting to number 1 in the country at Towson. When are we going to see something? Army did it a couple weeks ago, or a couple years ago, so maybe pretty wild. But after that, like you had Penn State because I remember I think Penn State played Towson at the Crown event in 2019, or did Cornell play 2019? Yeah, Penn State beat Cornell 19-13, but Cornell had played Towson the day before or after that and beat them 18-11, so Towson fell from number 1. And after that was kind of, like Penn State had 15, Duke had 5, Yale had 5, Maryland had 2. This was week 6. Week 7, you had Penn State with 13, Yale with 7, Maryland had 5, Ohio State got a first place vote for number 1, Duke had 1. 5 teams, the top 5 all got first place votes. And then Penn State beat Maryland in that game and Sunday night in College Park, and Penn State took it. But I think it's in a 6 weeks into the season, how many teams are getting first place votes, I think is interesting. If there's like 5, okay, we got a wide open. If there's a clear, here's a good point. Here's a good marker, I think. Maryland plays Notre Dame on March or maybe February. I think it's February 28th, I think. Yeah, because Maryland's played Richmond week 1. Then they play Loyola. Then they play Cuse. Then they play Princeton. Then they play Notre Dame. Maryland plays Notre Dame on March 1st, safe. We will have seen Maryland play Notre Dame. We'll have seen Maryland play Cuse. We will have seen Maryland play Princeton. We will see Princeton play Cuse. We will see Princeton play North Carolina. We'll see Georgetown. Georgetown Cuse won't be that yet, but I think Georgetown will play Ohio State. Georgetown will have played Notre Dame by that point. we will have seen a bunch of big games between all these teams. If we are sitting here on March 1st and we're doing the live show, or we're doing a pod, and it is there are 4 or 5 teams with number 1 votes. Okay, we got a wide open season. There's a debate about it. If we're sitting here on March 1st and Maryland's number 1 with a bullet, still, or Princeton or Cuse number 1, it's a different story. And I think we've got a clear kind of top step. I don't know. I
didn't see that. The teams like coalesce around the 1, and then the not early, but a loss, maybe week 5, week 6. Then it kind of just scatters. Sometimes it like coalesces around what happened last year with Cornell. Maryland lost, I think, like week 4, week 6 maybe. And then right after that,
a little later than that, they lost to Michigan.
Was that
it was in mid-March, because Notre Dame was number 1 until they played Maryland. Then Maryland beat Notre Dame and got to number 1. And Maryland been number 2.
Week 7.
Maryland was number 1 for like 3 weeks, and they lost to Michigan, and then Cornell got it and never let it go.
Exactly. Sometimes it coalesces again to one team that kind of becomes a new consensus. That happened with Cornell. We got 17, but there was a bit of a distribution. Again, it wasn't like much depth to it. Maryland still had 1 first place. Ohio State got 3. Princeton had 1. North Carolina had 2. Happened in 2024. Notre Dame lost, I think, like week 4. Was it? So the week 4 poll, Denver then kind of coalesces the number 1 team. They had 17 first place votes. Hopkins, I think I made one of these, had 4. Army had 4, and then Duke had 1. There, so like it's kind of cool to see. Once that top dog falls, like where all those first place votes then scatter to. But I hear what you're saying. If like Maryland goes through that early gauntlet and is undefeated, like I think we're gonna see more of those first place votes for all of them, maybe.
All of the top 3 teams all play each other within the first month of the season, and they all have multiple significant games. Cuse plays in the first month of the season. Cuse is going to play number 1, number 2. There you go. I think Cuse Georgetown is a little bit later in like mid-March. Maryland's going to play number 2, number 3, number 8, number 10. Maryland has 6 of the other 9 top 10 teams on their schedule. Start the year. Princeton's going to play Maryland. They're going to play Cuse. They're going to play Carolina. Princeton plays all the other top 5 except for Georgetown, or in the IO poll, all of them except for depending on what your poll is. So all these teams are going to play each other, and we're going to get we're going to get an idea. My gut is I think there's going to be I think one of those teams is going to come through the pack. Now maybe it's a 3-way like death match, and they all just Maryland beats Cuse, who then beats Princeton. And Princeton beats Maryland. Like maybe that plays out. I think we're gonna have a clear team out of that. I think the others. Go ahead.
It kind of reminds you a little bit of when people talk about like circular funding for like NVIDIA. Invest in this company, so this company can buy to this company, so this company buys back. Like it really does feel like just keep this a closed loop between us, and then
exactly what it is.
Yeah,
it's. I see any time when people it's like, man, could this conference get 2? I don't know how to say. It's like, could the Patriot League get 2 teams this year? Could they? It's like, no. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know how to. That's bad podcast. I shouldn't say that. Like it's like when Aikman or whatever was calling the Sunday game, and it was like the 4th quarter, and he's like, "Listen, I don't want to lose our audience here, but the Texans, this game's kind of."
You don't need to watch the rest of it.
He's like, this game's kind of over.
Go spend time with your family. What are you doing?
I don't want to Army lost 2 games last year and couldn't make the tournament. They were 14-2, and they were the first team out. I mean, it was close, but still, it wasn't really that close at the end. I mean, I think that kind of tells you all you need to know. The way these team schedules are just so. It's insane, dude. In 2019, Maryland played Bucknell and Colgate and Navy. Richmond wasn't Richmond yet then, to the same degree. 2018, Maryland played Navy, Marist, and High Point in their first 3 games of the season. It just doesn't. doesn't happen anymore.
It's like the analog era. Yeah, we're never going to do that.
Like, here's Princeton. Let's go. Even a couple years ago, when Princeton came back from Princeton's a great way to chart this because it's so like perfectly kind of mirrors their ascent. In 2022, Princeton played Monmouth and Binghamton to start the year. Then they played Marist on April 5th. In 2023, they played Monmouth and Manhattan. And in the middle of the year, they had Cuse later on. 2024, Monmouth and Manhattan. And then 2025, starting last year, Princeton's like, okay, we're going to play Penn State, Maryland, Duke, UNC, Rutgers, and Cornell as our first 6 games of the season. Cuse this year. Cuse is this is the point we've been making about Cuse's schedule. And, I mean, it is a bit, because Cuse fans would always sometimes kind of take issue with people, critiquing the schedule. And now, justifiably, they're like, we have the toughest schedule in the country. It's like, I know, that's the point we've been making for the past 3-4. There is a difference here of, Cuse in 2022, even, it's just 2022. Cuse opened with Holy Cross. They played Stony Brook on March 19th. Albany was in there, wasn't the same Albany team. 2022, they played Vermont, Albany, Holy Cross, Hofstra, St. Bonaventure. 24, Vermont, Colgate, Manhattan to start. Now, they do have some of these teams still on there, but like they're playing. Cuse is playing Maryland, Princeton, Georgetown. Cuse plays every other top 5 team except for Cuse plays every other, not Cornell, not Media Pool. Cuse plays a bunch of this top 10. They play BU, they play Hopkins, so on and so forth. But it's so different. Even Hopkins still played Mount St. Mary's up until Hopkins played Mount St. Mary's in 2020. Even if you go back to 2017, Hopkins was still playing UMBC. It's just completely different. Is it a good thing? No, I don't necessarily. I mean, it's a bit of give and take. It is awesome in lacrosse that you get these games. Like, we are always going to see the best teams play the best teams. There's big matchups. It means good crowds. It means television. That's what you want. I don't think it's totally great for the overall health of the sport. This is where I would recommend like some sort of selection. Increase the number of teams that get, I don't know, do a 21-25 bucket give you credit for a top 25 win. Or maybe there's credit for a top 30 win, but it's not weighted as much as, the top 20. I don't know, maybe it's a secondary criteria or something like that. At least allow for incentivize the big teams to still play the other team, the mid-majors. Because with how focused they are on the RPI and everything like that, they're not going to do it. So you have to add some sort of something, or like, say kind of your idea. If you set up so like we start 2 weeks later, and so you have to play some midweek games, there you go. That kind of gives a reason for some of these midweek teams to kind of, maybe you play on a Friday night, you play at one of these other teams, things like that. But yeah, you're right. Like it's a total feedback loop. I mean, it's some of these, what's this, Versant or whatever, or some of these other. It's like the companies that sponsor golf tournaments, where you like look into it. It's like Versant or Grupo Salinas, and it's like, what do you actually like? What is your business? And it's just like, we have a portfolio of different kinds. Like, okay. Okay, I get the idea of like what you're,
Okay. Selena beat when she asked.
Versant is perfect. I'm seeing Versant like everywhere now. It's like Versant is an American multinational mass media company, founded as a spin-off of NBC Universal's U.S. cable television operations. Established to allow NBC Universal to focus on its core businesses while allowing the divested properties to make their own further investments as a, quote, house of brands.
What's this? Broadcasting things?
NBC Universal will continue to provide advertising sales services after it's like, what is...
None of those words are in the Bible.
Exactly. What does any of that stuff mean? Like, I have no idea what genuinely any of that stuff beats. Like, I don't. The Nvidia that might need to go on. That might be an early contender for like meme of the year. The selection criteria is like the Nvidia Corporation.
It's just
It's like some industry layered on top of another. We're in God, I love this. Nvidia graphic processing units, systems on chips, performance computing, video games, mobile and automotive applications. What do you not do? Do you make tennis balls too? Like, oh man.
same thing with AMD. Yeah, I guess I kind of know what they're doing. The video is doing, but all of a sudden I just saw them everywhere. You know, they're buying F1. They saw their CEO on the track beforehand. I think I got to know who she was, and she was just pretty cool about it. And then the announcer was like, "Hey, that's the CEO of AMD." I'm like, I don't know what that is. No idea. Then I see that, like, get 20% of like ChatGPT or something. I'm like, how's this working? Like,
oh man. All right, Safe. Last one of these. Let's get into it. I mean, we kind of touched on some of this stuff a bit with that. But our last conference preview, it's usually the one that gets the most kind of discussion and play. It's the big boys, the power conferences, the ACC, the Big Ten, the Ivy League. These teams got every at-large bid to the NCAA tournament last year. They got, I believe, every at-large bid to the NCAA tournament in 2023. They got every at-large bid to the NCAA tournament in 2022. That kind of gives you an idea of where we are, kind of the era that we're kind of in. There hasn't been a national champion outside these three leagues since Denver in 2015. There hasn't been a Final Four team outside these leagues since Denver in 2024, but Denver is the only one in the past, I think, 5 or 6 NCAA tournaments outside these three leagues. This has kind of become a bit the Ivies, the story of lacrosse. I think in the past, kind of this decade is to a degree this kind of, as we talk, it goes with the schedules, kind of this sort of consolidating of power at the top. We left an era in the 2010s where you had the rise of Denver, you had Loyola as a significant national power, you had mid-major programs like Albany and Towson take big steps and compete for the Final Fours and things like that. And now we've entered an era where the Ivy League, which was kind of dormant a bit for until Yale won the national title in 2018, has now really emerged out of COVID. When people were kind of questioning what the Ivy League sort of future was, it's come back stronger than ever. With national champion in 2025, obviously 2022 when they had all those teams in the tournament. Ivy League's won 2 of the last 7 national championships, I think, which is same number as the Big Ten in that time. The ACC's taken, it's a couple more. I think 4. So that sort of gives you, an idea of where things have been. And these leagues are the big names. They're, again, in our poll, it's the top 9 is 8 and 9 are from these conferences, all but like 2 of the top 11. So they're the ones that get the attention for good reason. Obviously, the emergence of the ACC kind of really is a big brand and things like that. Big Ten getting deeper, all sorts of things. Kind of we would associate with the 2020s in college lacrosse. Safe. You can go anywhere, any conference, any team from these. There's 3 conferences to pick from. There's 18 teams in these leagues. Where do you want to start? What's your storyline, team to look at, question you have? What do you got?
Just go to put finish up your point about the consolidation of power. Like, it kind of mimics what's happening nationally with the ACC substituting for the SEC. In terms of football, SEC, Big Ten. Lacrosse, because there is no SEC conference, ACC kind of playing that role. But the Ivy, kind of like something we've always said from the beginning, like when we're like, love the sport, obviously it's fun. It's just kind of outrageous in a lot of aspects. In all respect to PLL and NLL for the professional league, the goal really still for your top flight recruit is to get to one of these schools.
Yeah.
Go in the Big Ten, go in the ACC or an Ivy League school. So when we kind of talked about, like, a lot of people were like, oh, where will Ivy fit back into this after COVID? And Princeton had a little bit of their drop off. Cornell was still there, but they just weren't like making the noise. Obviously with the conference wise as they have now. And we kind of always fell back to us like, there's no multi-million-dollar contracts or stuff like that. Like post college, the goal is still really to go here. I was like, eventually, I didn't know it would be like that season, 2022. They'll be right back in it. I was like, but eventually, like Ivy should like come back a rising power and like a legitimate third power conference. And you could make a case, and I think you kind of articulated it as like maybe you can make a case like where is the actual second best conference, because you could make a case that Ivy is really second best conference, especially the top level, maybe not conference wide, but and it's something that like kind of like I said just matches kind of what we're seeing with like college sports nationally. Big money conferences, just kind of get more power, get more recruit, being able to like provide more assets to their players and now paying them. I won't be paying players, but Hopkins will. They signed on for agreement. But I think we discussed UVA may as well. So it's like probably just going to see more of that consolidation, and that's kind of reflected in the scheduling. It's just kind of the circular scheduling. We kind of play each other, so maybe we don't win, but like eventually you'll be able to like keep that, kind of keep it in the family a little bit with but making it difficult for teams in these mid majors unless you're a Richmond. Or Georgetown. And I'm saying the Big East is a big major conference, but like to be able to schedule those teams, because of your own performance, that's the only real reason. But Maryland's not going, as you noted, they're not going now. Getting scheduling out of their way to get a team in the A10, or that's not Richmond or something like that. They're going for like a St. Bonaventure. Again, not to dunk on the Bonnies, but like unless you can really show like through your performance that you're our top team, you're not going to be able to schedule teams from these conferences a lot, especially the conference games, taking a good portion of the schedule, and then like I said, there's kind of like littering your non-conference games with ACC opponents or Big Ten opponents, or in IB. So it's kind of see like going to just be more of this into the future, and maybe we'll see like Ivy kind of muscle their way into the fourth, get like a strong fourth team.
There's a world where that can happen. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just
Yale bounces back.
That's
Harvard
one right there. Right, exactly.
Harvard can kind of entrench themselves. That gives you four, and then I like the coaches. I like Penn, Dartmouth, and Brown at the bottom. I like all their coaches in that league. So I like all the coaches in the Ivy League really now. So yeah, it's definitely possible. Everything would kind of have to hit right. You have to get Yale coming back, Harvard sticking, maybe one of those bottom, really kind of. But there's definitely a universe where there's 4 or 5 strong, 6 maybe strong teams in the Ivy League. It can maybe mirror what happened with the Big Ten, where when the Big Ten started, it was kind of Hopkins and Maryland kind of viewed, and then Ohio State hit early. Penn State took a little bit, but then came up. And then in the last Rutgers, then Michigan, kind of came through. And now it's where Big Ten used to be kind of like we got 3 or 4 tough games. Now it's every week you're playing a top 20 team basically every week. I don't think that's out of the question. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's not out of the question for the Ivy. It's possible.
Good case. They almost had 3 teams in the Elite 8. If Harvard just held on.
Yeah.
It's just like kind of, not remarkable. These are amazing institutions, and we kind of always said it like, once Yale won the tournament, like Harvard probably was like, "What are we doing? Why are we like really like trying to win this?" Princeton's back, So like, kind of like feels like they're kind of definitely on the rise more. It's not just like plateauing and like there's still plenty of room to go up further, and it would be interesting to see if like we're maybe talking 2 or 3 years now. Is the ideally the best conference top to, maybe not top to bottom, but like they're getting 4 teams in the tournament, and then like making the final fours repeatedly every year. Like, yeah, you're gonna have to start thinking of them as not just like up there with them, but like maybe surpassing the Big and the ACC at some point. So
Princeton's recruiting stretch the past couple years is the best recruiting stretch I think any non-ACC team has had, probably since I would say maybe Petro had some of those classes mid-2010s at Hopkins, which did those completely pan out? Not necessarily. Some cases, yes. Some cases, not to the degree, obviously, Hopkins fans would have wanted, I imagine. Go read the Hopkins fan board. Someone will bring up, the class of, who was it? Was it the Shaq's class? I think that was like supposed to be like a transformational class or whatever. Someone on the Hopkins fan will mention that every 5 pages. Shout out the Hopkins fan board. It's a lovely place. But yeah, I like Princeton's recruiting success is pretty, again, for a non-ACC school, is pretty astounding. Because that's kind of been the thing in recruiting in basketball, is most kids want to go to the ACC. That's big. And the Big Ten does pretty well, but not to the same degree. But Princeton is like in there with them pretty, routinely now. And it's a level of, kind of a run that's pretty. Princeton class of 2027 has 5 5-star recruits, 5 of the top 21, and 7 of the top 50. Class of 2026, they have 5, 2 5-star recruits and like 5, 6 in the top 100. Class of 2025, they have 6 of the top 100. They got a couple 5-stars in there. Class of 2024, Peyton Fox and Peter Bonanno. So those guys are both 5-stars, top 10 players. The group that's like these guys right now, they're in their junior year, Kabiri, Burns, all those guys. Those guys didn't come out of nowhere. Number 3, number 12, number 20, number 24, number 30. Those names are there for a reason. Like the run that they've been on is, like it's reminiscent of even going back to 2021 McAsee's class, number 14, number 23, number 33. It is reminiscent of it's an ACC-esque sort of for what the ACC schools do, and year in and year out, and that's pretty impressive. Very impressive, honestly, because again, the ACC is really tough to beat out for a number of reasons. They're generally better academic schools, not by a lot, but at least they have the cachet. Let's say U.S. News and Rankings, all the public Ivies, UNC, UVA, Duke, there's a real cachet with those schools. Maybe it's a little less so with Ohio State or Maryland, things like that, Penn State, which are still very good schools in their own right. The Ivy can match that academically, obviously. It's very challenging to be a student at those schools. And it's a great, obviously, you talk to, like most of these guys, their success is going to come after with whatever job they get in business or something alike, something along those lines. Princeton's recruiting success has been pretty, and Cornell does well, and Yale did well for a while. It's been a little less so recently, but Princeton's is the one that's really striking as what they've been able to do in those battles with Danowski and Corrigan, and he more than wins his fair share. So, and it'll be interesting to see. Cornell has success. Cornell's is a little more I guess I'd say diversified. Like they kind of go up to Canada, do things like that. It'd be interesting to see, can they have more of that success. I mean, Busick's from Ohio, so I mean, maybe pivot out west as well, to a degree. But look, they certainly Crosse was a big name. Uh, they got Willem Firth on this roster, Rowan Nuri, who I know is like a one of like the big incoming freshman who is expected to have maybe play an immediate role and be a star kind of immediately in that offense. He's getting a bunch of play. I think Adam had him as his freshman, or in our kind of prestigious and illustrious freshman of the year prediction. Predictions we do, which always has a fantastic track record. I think Adam's calling Rowan Nuri as freshman of the year this year. So, they get a decent amount too, and maybe they, can kind of elevate from that as well. But yeah, I mean, it's, again, we do this when we talk about like what the RPI top 20, which is at the end of the day sort of what is the final kind of measure that these teams are measured by. Last year, these three conferences had 14 of the top 20. And I don't really see any reason why it won't be that same again, based on how they schedule and the quality of the teams. If you look in the top 20, every Big Ten team is in the preseason top 20. 3 Ivy League teams are in the preseason top 20. Every ACC, that's 14 right there. Boom, there you go. And I think I ranked Yale in my preseason top 20 poll. I think they're going to have a bounce back year. Think about it. That was last year. They got every at-large bid. And that's with 3 legacy programs, Virginia, Johns Hopkins, and Yale, all having bad seasons. They were very strong last year, and 3 of the programs you would most kind of associate with success in these leagues were not good. So what happens if those 3 teams bounce back, which I think they all will? That's kind of one of my things to look at. Yeah, why don't we go there? That's a good kind of segue to one of my questions. I think this is a kind of story writ large. Like 5 programs which have won the NCAA championship, not only of the 5 programs last year who have won the NCAA championship, only one of them of this 5 select I'm looking at had a winning season. Hopkins losing season, Virginia losing season, Yale losing season, Loyola, like historically one of the worst seasons, like the worst season probably in program history. Hopkins, one of the worst. Virginia, one of the worst. Yale, their worst in years. All these, like, for like kind of these big name programs, and that's not to say that. Listen, the Final Four was Maryland, Cornell, and Cuse, which are legacy, kind of old money programs in their own right. But still, some of these big, like Yale is kind of Denver's a new legacy program. Like those are kind of newer, but nonetheless, look, once you win the NCAA championship, to me, you're in the club. Like if you win the national title, you are in the you're in the elite hotel. You get a room. You get a room in the hotel once you win the NCAA championship. Like that's only certain number of programs have actually done it. So, can these, especially these 3 we're looking at, Virginia, Hopkins, and Yale, this is my kind of the question, can these 3 programs bounce back? I think there is reason for optimism for all of them. I also think there's reason for caution for all of them. Let me outline the optimism points. Virginia. Brendan Millen, he's my freshman of the year pick. It looks like he's going to get the ball. Like I think in Virginia's USA Lacrosse magazine, I was reading that preview that they wrote about them. Brendan Millen's going to be at attack, and maybe McCabe Millen's going to go to midfield, which I think is a good idea. I think we saw last year that the role McCabe Millen had in the offense was probably too large. And now, granted, like Connor Schellenberger's back on staff, so I think that's a big part for him. Will be working with McCabe Millen, kind of getting him pointed in the right direction, and he's still going to have a big role to play even at the midfield. But UVA, this goes to the caution point. Midfield production for Virginia has been a problem the past couple of years, so they need someone from there. But just a different necessarily not being the guy who's like, yeah, you're gonna have the ball on your stick and take 7, 8, 9 shots every game. I'm super high on Brendan Millen. I think he's just got everything from number one attack component. He's incredibly smart. Uses his body when he's done so well. Great passer, sees the field. I think he's the total kind of package. I don't know if he's necessarily the athlete that you totally associate with like that a CJ Curse was, that a Brennan O'Neill was, but from a lacrosse skill, IQ perspective, everything like that, he's got it all. I think he's going to be a star. So that's reason for optimism. Look, this Lars is still the dude. The dude didn't forget how to coach. I mean, he's won 2 national titles. He's been to the Final Four at 2 different programs. He had developed a style that worked and won. So as long as you got Lars there, you got to have confidence that he's getting that pointed in the right direction. Good pieces on defense. Schroeder's an All-American. So reason for optimism for Virginia. Safe your boys, down in my neck of the woods at Homewood. Ton of returning production on the offensive side of the ball. A team that went from basically being the most inexperienced offense in the Big Ten now goes to being one of the more experienced ones in the Big Ten. Melendez, was weird, but like basically the Hopkins group that was on the field when they had that losing streak, they've taken their licks and all those guys are back. And I think there's a lot of talent in those groups. Obviously, you've got Collison back for his senior year. I think he played well down the stretch. I think he's primed for you to hope for his best year as in college. And he's had a lot of good ones. Chevette, but I like Charlie Eiler came on strong. Some other guys, Ross and Chick in that offense. They bring, again, basically experience is paramount. We've seen it. The Big Ten is kind of like this. It's like this yo-yo. You kind of build up to having a really big group of seniors, things like that, and you hit, and then you lose it, and you got to take your licks and come back down a bit. And Hopkins certainly did that last year, but the offense quietly actually was not bad this last year. They were 17th in offensive efficiency, and that was with having to almost wholesale replace all of your offense. You get a bunch back. Goalie Dash, can he kind of? I don't know if he'll start the year, but can he be? He's the biggest goalie recruit that Hopkins has brought in over a decade. Can he be the guy to kind of provide real stability and upside at that position they've been lacking for a long time? I think for all these teams, just positive regression. It's just they all kind of got the short end of the stick in kind of close games and things like that all last year. For Yale, seems like Shea's kind of really shaking some things up, and they're kind of the approach they're taking is they try to really kind of look at what wasn't working the past couple of years and make some big changes. They bring in Noah Foster, defensive coordinator. I think you could argue for Yale, just going back to being a top 25 defense would be just huge for this program. Maybe the offense is worse, but the defense has been shipping goals for 4 years. If they can just get back to being a good defense and not give up 3 to 4 extra goals per game than everybody else, I think you could argue that'd be huge. I think Shea, kind of tearing some stuff out. I think it's good. I think they kind of needed to kind of change the vibes around there. So that's all reason for optimism. There's reason for caution. Any disagreements there, Safe, on the optimism? Anything you have?
No, I mean the Yale one is the best, but it kind of reminds me of the Jonah Hill, I can't believe I'm blanking on the title, Moneyball, where he's like it's kind of like this is a program with an elite coach, well-funded, well-supported program, absolute top-notch, offensive talent. The only thing they're missing is no defense for last 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's just you kind of look at their seasons, 12-5, 2022, won the game from the Final Four, 9-6, 2023, 11-4, kind of bottomed out 5-8. I kind of almost impressed that it was as decent as this with a bottom quartile defense, especially, the modern day where there's a lot more possessions. You got to have at least a replacement level of defense to really kind of compete, and obviously above that to be in the upper echelon. So Yale, it's like the one that's like, this kind of one glaring problem that just hadn't been able to fix. Maybe this is the year that, they kind of really, went under the hood and just made some significant changes in how they approach things. Because that's really it. Like, they get the talent, the name's Yale. They got a coach who's won the title a little while. They were running the league, and so it's just like kind of them fading back. Almost, I'm not saying they did on purpose, but you know what I mean. It's just like almost kind of a willing choice because like there just obviously was one thing every year we kind of pointed to that it just didn't seem to get better. So they could do that. Like I hear you with the optimism. Hopkins, like, I think I just, fell into the deep abyss, with the 7 of the last 8 games, just losing, just constantly losing, just driving me crazy. So yeah, I kind of was like more melancholy after the end of the season and kind of pessimistic. But yeah, it's almost the opposite, kind of similar to like, when we lots of Virginia not making the Final Four, like, with that, actually, the further I got away from Minnesota, it hurt just as much. But yeah, the more I got past the 2025 season, like, like, okay, yeah, hope springs eternal, that type of thing. Flipping over to New Year. Moon is still a good coach. like, you don't like back-to-back Elite Eights, on accident. And last year, kind of, this is a weird one with, Melendez, like, kind of being like, and not really having that. Someone to fill in for Jacob Angelis's role. It's just like the defense. It's kind of what that was going to be. That one of the stronger points is kind of didn't live up to what I was hoping for. Yeah, so maybe just a fresh start. You do have some weapons on there. So yeah, I'm with you with like the optimism point. Denver as well. Like Denver was kind of like, again, kind of impressed. Like 7-7, not that great, but really like kind of blew 2 conference games. That's kind of like, they lost to Nova by 1. They beat Georgetown. They beat St. John's, and then to like kind of just get swamped by Marquette. And then Providence, that loss to kind of prevent them getting to the Big East tournament. They who knows, just winning one of those 2 getting to the Big East tournament. I'm not saying they beat Georgetown, but they did beat them once in the regular season. So like beat that 7-7 season just looks a little bit better on paper going into the new year. So I kind of think like that's kind of what we were talking about, like outside of the Big East, Big Ten, and ACC. ACC, Ivy, and Big Ten. You have like these, not independent, but like these, singular like power programs and these mid-majors. And Denver was one of those who kind of just referred to them as a legacy program. So anything I do kind of see them, as a program wise, like I said, like not falling below 500, kind of, not what Hopkins and Virginia or Yale did. So yeah, that's a little bit ahead of the game. A couple of tweaks here and there, like. I could see that. So I'm with you with the bounce back. I think we mentioned that about Denver last week too. Like,
I really think it's undersold. Like, so much was spent about Hopkins. Like we talked at the beginning of the year, like the offense thing. Now, I think there's nuance to this, but I really think it gets like Hopkins' offense statistically was almost like identical to the one the year before. Like, honestly, it's been basically identical for 3 years. 34.8, 34.3, 34.0 adjusted offensive efficiency. They ranked 13th, 14th, and 17th. And that's with losing all the guys they did from 24 over to 25. I think there's a couple ways you can take this. But one, maybe if you want to be the like negative end of it, it's like, shouldn't the offense in 24 and 23 and 24 maybe been a little bit better? I think it's a positive when you had Angelis and you had Degnan and you had Collison and you had shouldn't that now there's Melendez was hurt in 24. There's that argument of maybe it should have been a little bit better than it's been. And like Milliman, offensive coach, hasn't yet had a top 10 offense. Like that's a point I think you can make. On the counterpoint,
where's my Jeff T?
That's another point. Fair point. It's like they've had a lot of good players. Have they had that great, and listen, Melendez looked great for a month and then he got hurt. I'm not saying they make the tournament with him last year if he's healthy the whole season, but I think they win a couple more games, which, with their schedule it's pretty substantial. 6-8 to 8-6 with Hopkins' schedule is a pretty big deal. Like it's a couple more top 20 wins. I think if you want to feel better, it's like, hey, they lost all that talent and they The offense did not fall off one bit. Now, with bringing it back, can you take another step? There's some guys, you said, there's some hitters. Carlson there, Charlie Eiler, there's some freshmen coming in. The other point may be that sort of in 23 and 24, they were not a great faceoff team. So they were a really good offense in spite of the fact they were just okay on faceoffs. In 2025, they were an elite faceoff team, and the offense was still good. Maybe that kind of shows you the difference, that as great as the faceoff play was, it didn't translate to goals as much as you would kind of hope for. You could argue, hey, if you give that 23 and 24 offense top 5 faceoff play, they probably got 2 to 3 extra more goals a game. So I do think there's some nuance in there with this. I think there's different ways you can take this, but I still think the offense is. I think there's reason for encouragement that they could have a top 10-ish offense this year, and that matters. That's big. Now the reason for caution. I'll do Hopkins first, but I think Virginia and Yale have some as well. The defense. This is really where Hopkins lost it last year. Let me rank the Big Ten teams by adjusted defensive efficiency for you, and I'll tell you if you can spot the team that finished in last place. Maryland, 2nd in the country. Ohio State, 3rd in the country. Michigan, 4th in the country. Rutgers, 6th in the country. Penn State, 9th in the country. Johns Hopkins, 41st in the country. Everybody in the Big Ten except Hopkins was a top 10 defense last year.
Hopkins with Rutgers D would have made the tournament.
Hopkins with Rutgers D is probably a quarterfinal team. With a Cardin Stoller, put Cardin Stoller in net. I mean, that's probably a quarterfinal team. With that face-off play and a defense behind that, that's a top 10 defense. Yeah, I mean that's a really good team. So Rutgers is the flip side of this. Rutgers was 52nd in adjusted offensive efficiency. So the cost for Hopkins, the defense was bad. My question I ask is, where does it get better? I think it has to be a combination of a couple things. I think you need some talent to take some step. You need, after Quentin Kilrain. Quentin Kilrain's an All-American type player. He's awesome. You need some other guys behind him, Carson Brown, those guys, to step up and be really good. Identify a third long pole. You need some shorties to play better. Reese DeChico, I know, is a really good player. Can they bring in? They brought in Alex Lacey. He's a talented kid. His brother Donovan played for Maryland a couple years ago, and Sacred Heart before that was a really good shorty. Can they get some guys, improve there? The big thing, though, and I'm sure Safe you'll agree with this, and I think for a lot of Hopkins fans this is, and we talked a lot about this last year, the scheme needs to better suit the personnel. The very aggressive, slide-happy defense that they played worked a lot when you had Alex Mazzone and Scott Smith and Kilrain, but then you have Brett Martin at short stick and all those guys behind it who could play in that. They could play in that system. Who were really athletic and physical, and when they slid, made it count so that it shook up the offense. If you don't have those guys to do it, all sliding does is just create space for the offense. And you saw it for Hopkins last year. It was a house of cards that just kind of toppled on itself. Listen, Jamison Kester is a really good defensive coordinator. Hopkins' defense in 23 and 24 ranked 7th and 6th in the country. Even when in 2022 they weren't great on offense, it still ranked 18th in the country. And Jamison Kester had good defense at UMBC. The guy can coach defense, and Ohio State but the scheme they have has to fit, it's got to align to personnel. If they've got the personnel to play the system he loves to play, then play it. But if not, you can't be giving away, goals by easily. And then also that goes with that is goaltending. Chase Ireland was a goalie who could play in that system because you could put Chase Ireland 12-yard shot, step down, and you could maybe trust him to make the save. Their goalie play was not bad last year. But going from 4th to 24th in the country is a big difference, especially in a league like the Big Ten where McNaney, Fyock, Stoller, you had a lot of elite goalies. So that's my caution there is if the defense is top 25 with the offense they have, I think they're an NCAA tournament team. If the defense is bad again, the offense really has to get. It's got to be like Yale to make up for it. I do think the defense will be better. My question is, how much better? Is it back to 2024 levels? If so, might be a top 5 team. If it's more, in between, I think it's probably where I think you and a lot of people see them as, which is 15th, 16th, somewhere on the bubble. That's Hopkins. Virginia. The vibes are still really weird. Like there's just something that's, I don't know. It doesn't feel totally right. You never ever should read too much into fall ball scrimmage results, but it does feel a little odd that they're kind of like really neck and neck with Marist in the fall and Bucknell in January. I don't know. Just it's not something necessarily, but maybe it's not nothing. I still don't love the midfield. I don't know what happened with Florida. Like he stopped recruiting midfielders, sort of, and it's like all their midfielders are now converted to attackmen. It's like I don't know. I still sometimes like me a 6'1", 200-pound midfielder. I like me some big bodies at the midfield. And I like some dudes who can. I mean, Ryan Conrad they had was like two-way guy. I love midfielders. Is all I'm saying. I know that the positionless cross is all the rage now, and I get it. I still like midfielders and I like attackmen. And I don't know what happened in Virginia, but somewhere on the line, it's like, yeah, all their guys are just attackmen who. It sort of feels like with, it's like, yeah, our cornerbacks are just converted wide receivers. Like, well, maybe I don't know. I don't know if that's good necessarily completely. Or the best one is in soccer. Our fullbacks, our right back and our left back are just guys who weren't good enough to play winger. It's like, well, maybe I'd like a guy who was a really good defender. Like I don't know. It's something about Virginia. They just lost the mix there. They haven't had guys who can shoot. That just kind of it concerns me. I looked at it might be their projected midfield. I like Millen back there, but some of the other ones, I'm like, I don't know. What happened to Dox? I like Dox. Like that was, I mean, a guy who could score 35, 40 goals in the midfield. I know those guys don't grow on trees, but you kind of need those guys. And then for Yale, your point is, the Moneyball meme. We have an elite offense. We got a great coach, facilities, and all these things. We're just missing the defense. Well, what happens if all the offensive guys leave? Like, could it go the reverse? I don't think it will. I think they bring in enough good players. They clearly know what they're doing on that side of the ball. I think the offense, even losing their two best guys, and Johnson Lyons, and no Brandow anymore after clearly that impacted them last year. I still think in the net, if you improve on defense to the degree they need to, it'll win out. But it is kind of point of like, this is why you fix the defense like the last couple of years when you still have Matt Brandow and you still had all those guys because it was what was keeping you from a Final Four. So that's kind of a broader point. I think there's reason for optimism for all these teams. I could see all of them making the NCAA tournament. I think Virginia and Hopkins, if you had to push me, I'd say will make the NCAA tournament. But there's reason for caution too. There's a reason I didn't rank any of them top 10. All of them are 11 to 20. If I felt great about it, I'd say they're one of these teams is going to make. I feel pretty good. These teams are going to make, at least Virginia and Hopkins, maybe Yale will make the NCAA tournament. I don't feel great they're going to be in the quarterfinals. Is how I'd put it. If you maybe pick the 8 quarterfinal teams, I don't feel great that either of these teams are going to be among them, which I think is kind of the differentiator, sort of. So, but will these programs bounce back? I think it's a big story. I'm going to say safe yes. I think that it's going to be, we talked about Denver. I think Loyola's going to have a good year. I think it's going to be a year of kind of return to at least some degree of form for these teams, but we'll see. I think it could go, if you were not as optimistic as me, I would understand it.
You're right about the defense. I mean, the 2024, 2023, especially 2024, I love that team so much. It was led by the lead. Shout out to Chase and goal too, with a 60% adjusted save percentage from shout out to lacrosse reference. It's just really that was the one thing I regret most about them not making the Final Four is like that team and that defense was going to be kind of forgotten in history.
That Chase Ireland performance against Virginia is like was unbelievable. If they win the game, it's one of those things like in like 5 years, people be like highlight clips. Chase Yearling was a problem.
Yeah, it was like the chase, the brick wall memes, everything. Like it was there. It's almost like our meme. Like maybe that was our shot. I know I just butchered it, but I said the Dan Campbell.
The Dan Campbell. This might have been our best shot.
Might have been our shot.
You never know.
I guess the pessimism comes with like it's just. I know offense is the problem. I'm sure efficiency wise, like pretty much same numbers as the year prior, but there still was never anyone, especially on that team. Once Russell went down, like that struck fear, and like I still like am a bit horrified of that Melendez was still the fourth leading point scorer on the team.
No, I mean he was the best player, and when your best player.
But it's like with 23, it wasn't like he popped up and it's like 40 goals. And
I mean, look at his numbers. Look at how many games did he play?
7. Yeah, 7 started.
So he had
14 and 9.
Let's take one of them out of it because what was that last game he played? He didn't even.
I feel was that the Navy game or
he was not even like he was a complete decoy in that game. Like he was not a factor in that game whatsoever. So he had 23 points in, let's say, realistically, he had 23 points in 5 games. What's that per game?
Yeah, 4.25 or something like that per game.
4.25 per game would have put him. And the teams, 4.25 per game is top 20 in the country.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like once they lost him,
2.8 goals per game he would have been top 20 in goals and points. I mean, that's the pace he was on was pretty. And if you're an Ohio State fan, this is the optimistic point of it. The pessimistic point of it is he's had one real, I would say, fully healthy season. Because 24, he looked kind of. He played the whole year, but he didn't look like himself for a lot of it. But I don't know. Like you're not wrong, but it's also like a guy who's on a pace of top. I mean, if he played how many games did Hopkins play?
14.
He would have put up 60 points.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's all. I mean, that's big.
You were the one putting me back from the ledge and the beginning of the year because you were like, no. Because I was like, we lost Jacob, we lost that D, and you were like, it'll be fine. It was right. It was fine. If for like 5 games, it was exactly what I was like the best case scenario. I was like, oh shoot, I'm totally wrong. And then he got hurt, and then it's just like that thing was just like I think part of it like the shots could other people could take a shot, but like he was so efficient and like he only took 31 shots last year. Shooting percentage 45%. Like so that's my other. It could maybe kind of flip the other side because it was like okay, so that means that the kids that we were hoping to produce had opportunities last year, or had time to like kind of show that, and then you want to pop off, and it's just like love Crosse and. Midfielder, like the leading the team, 33 points. Like if you look at pretty much every other team, I just went through Maryland, Duke, Virginia, Princeton, Michigan's, like just pick schools at random. Like our best point scorer was at maybe 4th on anybody else's team.
If your best point scorer is a midfielder, it's by inherently going to be
exactly
like he's not going to. Now here's what I'd say: if he starts in midfield, he should play every possession. He cannot leave the field.
Yeah.
If you want to play him in midfield, that's fine. He can't be taken because that was still up until the end of the year until they moved him to attack. That's like there's at least like 5-6 possessions he's just not out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he plays every possession, I'm not saying he's going to put up 50 points, but he probably puts up 40.
40? I'd be 40. Love 40.
Like,
love 40. But yeah,
let me see. Eiler came in the Navy game?
Yes, 10 and 8. Like 10 played 10, started 8.
So let's say plays the last 9 games of the season. 22 points in 9 games. That's 2.4. You said they played how many games?
14.
That's 34 points for a freshman.
I'll take that. Yeah.
That's a pretty good start. I mean, if he has 34 points this year, I think you're a little like, I don't know. But for his first kind of, I think that's a good start. 34 points as a freshman. Look, if the whole theory of this rests on these guys need to take some steps. Eiler was a redshirt. Chavette was a sophomore, and he shot 27%. He's got to shoot 31, 32%.
Yes.
It's got to be better. Eiler was a freshman, and he put up, shot the ball pretty darn well. Shot 36%, and a lot of turnovers. That's a freshman's going to commit turnovers. He's got to go. He was on pace for 30-something points. He's got to step up to be a 40-plus point guy. Rawson was a sophomore, first real playing time, had 19 points. Chick, first real playing time, 14 points. The theory rests on these guys were all playing for the first time. What does it look like with another, off season? Can they be 20, the 20, 25, 30 point, guys? Because there's 6 guys there who scored 20 goals. It's not bad. There's 7 guys basically at 20 plus points. You just need these guys to be a little bit better. Can they be? If they're not better, then
are we doing projected goals or?
No, I was saying goals. They had 6 10 plus goal scorers. Right? Did I say 20?
Oh, forgive me. I was like, I wish you had 620.
No, I mean 6. That's a lot. That's 20. Maryland. The 22 Terps had 6 20 plus goal scorers. that's crazy. If I said 20, no.
God's ears, Jakes. Please let it happen.
6 guys score more than 13 goals. And points wise, you had 7 guys with 19 or more.
The shooting got to get better. Maddie, 23%, 17 turnovers. I think cannot happen again this year. It's got to be 30% minimum.
So let's go from the Melendez game. You're saying that was basically after Cuse, kind of, or maybe it was Virginia even.
It was a Virginia game. He was 0 for 0. Didn't even take any shots. I think that was the decoy game you're kind of mentioning.
The
Navy game, he had with 1 assist, but it kind of fell off after North Carolina. And that North Carolina game, I felt like it was hurt at the end, and that's kind of messed us up. But yeah, he scored 5 and 2. And that North Carolina game really popped up.
All right, so Collison's first 6 games of the year, he took 35 shots and he had 10 goals. So he shot 28. Still not what you like. I think you want a little bit more. But the Denver game, he was 1 for 10. But 1 for 4 against Towson, 3 for 5 against Georgetown, 2 for 5 against Loyola, 2 for 7 UNC, 1 for 4 Virginia. Decent. It all changes after that. Then it's 2 for 11 against Navy, 2 for 9 against Michigan, 2 for 8 against Pitt. There's the last 8 games, he shoots 11 for 50, 11 for 53. It goes from 28 to 20. That was the offense. The offense just did not work once they lost Melendez. So look, the theory of this relies upon the fact that these guys get better. If they don't get better, no, they're not going to be good. But it's just no. If nobody gets better, they will not be a better team. If they get better, though, and I think they will, I think they'll be a better team. I think that's the reason for the defense is more a question. Honestly, I'll put it to you this way: if Dash is the goalie for this team in the Big Ten tournament and he's taken the net, how many wins do you think they have on the season? If on Selection Sunday he's entrenched in the goalie position, how many wins do you think they have? Because this, honestly, maybe I'm putting too much in this, but this feels kind of like it's me. I'm gonna say I think if he's entrenched, I think they have 9. If he lives up to the hype and he gets the net, and then takes them through, I think they have 9.
But if he becomes my Big Mac. Coming as a freshman.
I'm not saying he's going to be that good, but I'm saying
if he doesn't blow up enough and see that Milliman trusts him to go the entire year, then yeah, he's somebody that
I'm not sure he's going to play. I'm not sure he's going to start the whole year. He probably won't start week 1, but if he gets the net somewhere in there and holds on to it, grabs the reins, that kind of that's the McNaney sort of. Again, I'm not saying he's McNaney, but that's sort of what McNaney did. He didn't start, but Tills eventually was just no, I think this is my guy. And there it is. But if Milliman never fully trusts him, I feel like Hopkins is like a 7-win team.
I like the size. I love a big goalie, 6'4". Like, I need that.
All right, let's kind of shift focus here. Safe, do you have any other? Do you have another kind of?
No, it's good. I mean, for ACC,
yeah, it sucks, ACC.
Yeah, it's like kind of a show me year at North Carolina and a little bit at Virginia. We just contract wise, just the lawyer in me. Contract wise, this is her last season, right? Like, there's nothing that we've found recently it's contradict that, or they've been re-upped. So kind of a rare thing. Maybe there's an internal thing and there's deadlines and they don't announce it. Like, so maybe they are been extended. But yeah, a little bit of you got to see something. I feel definitely in Chapel Hill. Not like tournament of fire type thing, but it's just like I think they definitely need to be like, we need to show movement. They got a little bit last year, had some motion throughout the regular season, didn't do what they wanted to do in the tournament. But it wasn't a complete embarrassment. Just again, that's how the Richmond story. It probably wasn't what Chapel Hill admin wanted to see. Playing at home, but it was some movement, and then I think it kind of need to show a little bit more of that. UVA, I'm with you. I don't think it's over, but it has to be said. It's probably that pessimism part I was going to add, and just kind of continue to the ACC question. The further we get from the Kerwin years, the less impressive UVA's offense has been.
It just doesn't. What is their identity? With Kerwin, you knew what they were.
That's it. Yeah.
Kerwin, it was at first it was the run and gun, but then it was also just yeah, I got better dudes than you. I'm gonna run these guys at you and keep up. Stop me. I don't know what part of it feels like they're still trying to do that, except they just do not have the same guys. I don't know how many. This is 2 years with Cassis now, I think, or was it last year the first?
Definitely 2 seasons.
Yeah, this is
they made the Final Four.
That first one, and then what is their idea? I don't know what it doesn't. Even with the last year with Connor, a lot of it by the end just kind of felt like Connor, go do something out there.
It's shot clock running down, go ISO ball or something. Kind of feel.
I don't know what. Yeah, I mean, Lars. Look, Lars was the guy who made the decision to hire Kerwin, so he deserves all the credit. And they kind of put that together. But yeah, I do think you're right. It does kind of have that defensive mind in the NFL, where he needs the offense, because Lars is a defensive guy. That's what Lars does. Lars coaches the defense. So it's not to say Lars can't coach offense, but it does have that vibe of okay, who's your offensive coordinator? Who's going to run your offense? And with Kerwin, he had it. There's
a familiarity that I don't think can be. I know they got a relationship with Cassis, but Kerwin was with Lars from the Brown days, and
10
that's
years?
Almost 10 years, maybe a little bit more. Before the tournament run, because he was awfully. I think it was 1 or 2 years with Lars when they made the tournament. The Final Four.
His first year was 20. I think it was 2015. I think it was the year before.
And then they did the Final Four run, and from there, moved to UVA, brought it with them. So the familiarity, the success, the comparability, it's just so it's you're going to do this spot with somebody else, even if the guy's a friend of mine. That's the
thing. It's
take some time to get the comfortability, to be able to know when to talk, and the jokes to drop. It's just again it's a piss poor analogy to what a Division I head coach at Lars' level needs to concern himself with.
But no, I think
reconciliation. But
I think there's something like that of Lars clearly likes Cassis, and that they have. I think they coached at Stony Brook, maybe. I think was it together. They overlapped a little bit, but it's and Lars had that in. What was that quote he gave of when they hired him? It's it oozes out of him. But it's there's one thing of it does matter. We see this in sports all the time of guys just do not vibe together. And the vibe is just off with the staff, and that matters. But ideology, view, do Lars and Cassis agree on like what their vision is? Because Cassis is not Sean Kerwin. Like that's Cassis and listen, understandably. I mean, it's like I'm not saying Cassis should have been running Kerwin's Virginia offense at Lehigh, but it's just not quite. I don't know. I never got the vibe of like that they share similar principles? Like, is it, is what they want out of this thing the same view? I don't know. That's kind of a bit, it's off to me. And Cassis as well, like, I don't know how like in deep he was with the offense at Lehigh, but the guy was a head coach for a long time. It's a little difficult, like going from being a head coach to a coordinator, unless you're like Petro coached the defense at Hopkins forever. So like he was just in the vibe with that. Odirna at Cuse, which has worked pretty well. Odirna hasn't been a head coach that long. Like Cassis has been a head coach for like almost 20 years. Like it's just a big kind of, it's just different, unless you're like really in it all the time. Like in being involved in those with the staff and doing things. I'm not saying he wasn't. Maybe like that was really what he, took pride in there. But there is a difference there. Like it's a different role. You have to look a head coach is being pulled in a lot of different directions. There's a lot of different responsibilities a head coach has. When you're the offensive coordinator, the job is simple. We got to score goals. And again, some coaches, yes, have that's Lars. I know Kip Turner was the defensive coordinator, but Kip Turner worked really close to the goalies. Lars is the defensive guy. Corrigan's a great example. Like you will see sometimes when it's a close possession, like it's an end of game possession, Kevin Corrigan's on the whiteboard. Like Tillman definitely gives his offense coordinators a lot of, but it's Tillman's offense. Like they run kind of what he wants to, how he wants his offense to run. And so I think you definitely see that with Lars with the defense. But yeah, the offense, this marriage with Cassis is, I'm not saying it's worked badly. I don't know. Is it what they do they vibe? Like they might be great friends. That's awesome. But it's is it simpatico, on the what they want the offense to be? And yeah, I think it's been a couple years now since you could say you look at Virginia's offense and it's like, yeah, I know what they're trying to. And listen, maybe that's just pieces, like clearly, listen, replacing Connor Schellenberger like ain't easy. Now that they have Mill and all that, maybe they can figure it out. But no, I think you're right about like I think I'm sure the relationship, yeah, is probably good, but it's on field, is the message kind of getting through, and is it conveying? And I'm not sure. I think that's a real question.
And I think more testament to Tillman is, we were saying like, oh, looking for the dance partner. To him, it's like really maybe at the end of 5-10 years, we're gonna look back and just be like, it just kind of always was Tillman. The revolving door of assistant coaches, and it's just consistently like whatever it's now the Bobby, or others like since then, like it's just always Tillman's offense. They're just doing maybe their version of it, or but not in his will. But it's just like it's indelibly his team because you kind of see it because when he leaves, like or big classes leave, like they're always able to just like somehow make it get it done. Like you could speak for yourself, but there's probably been times where you've desired a little bit more from the offense. But
different points for sure.
But like the proof is in the success. Like each year, like except for like a quarterfinal bounce out recently, like it's Final Fours of national title game appearances or national titles.
And also it's like, and the flip side of this is it's Tillman's offense. It's Jesse's defense. Like you can tell, like it's, and even before it was Burn, like Connery did great for a while, but also when Tillman came in, it was Warren's defense, and like you could tell Tillman and Warren like he entrusted him fully. Like Warren, that was the mosh pit and everything like that. Like that was Warren's thing, and now with Bernhardt, like it is his defense, and I think it's, as you say, the revolving door for sure, but having at least some continuity there. Like Jesse Bernhardt's been on staff now for, I mean, this will be year 9, I think. And so like Lars had that. Like Lars had Kerwin with him for years, and he had Kip Turner with him for years, and now it's a lot. It's not there. You can it's
Shit.
when it's so much turnover, it becomes like that's you know the head coach has to do more because like there's voices like I'm sure for Till, I'm sure like when with Corrigan when Jerry Byrne was there, he didn't have to say anything to the defense. Like Jerry that he's got it. You know, Desco with Kevin Donahue forever. You know, or different ones. Not coming to Tyranny with Metzbauer. Like when you have one guy who has that down and you trust him fully. That's what Lars had. Lars knew Kerwin's got the offense. I can look over here, and now it's a lot of turnover, and it's just been a lot. I think it's just been a lot of turnover in a lot of areas for several years now. Kerwin goes out the door, then Connor goes out the door, and a lot of those big names, Petey, Cormier, then Turner leaves. It's been a lot of turnover there over the past couple of years, and that's tough. Stability is a big thing. Identity, as we talk, identity. Do you know who you are? I'm interested with UNC, because look, there's UNC got a number one vote. I think my question UNC, what is the? It feels like them, Ohio State, like Georgetown. I know I'm high on. There's some teams people feel are like primed for a leap, like take the next step. I think my question with UNC is, where do they get better? Like what makes if the leap happens, what makes it happen? Like if this is the team that gets to the Final Four, what is going to be like the kind of thing that makes it happen? Because this is already a pretty darn great offensive team last year. I mean, like on offensive efficiency last year, they were 7th. I guess you could see there's some room for improve. They're we know what Duffy and Petro are now a proven commodity. You know what you're getting out of those two. Last year, Duffy had 61 points. Petro put up 48 goals. But and then the defense was really good, but did have injuries. Kind of made it work. So I kind of look at. There's two kind of points where I'm kind of seeing like, this is where it could happen. Like this is where UNC could go from good to great. One, if you kind of lose this with Hopkins, kind of like I think UNC clearly has elite guys. Like we know there's two guys, but then there is like the disparity in scoring is pronounced. Like it goes from Duffy with 61 points, Petro with 51 points. The next leading scorer has 25. That is pretty. You kind of need some guys in that 34, like a real go-to. Maybe it's a third attackman. Honestly, in this case, what I think it is, man, UNC, where has the midfield been? Ty English last year, they moved him from two-way midi to offense, and he played really well. He had 20 goals, 25 points, still picked up 26 ground balls. But after that, UNC had 5 guys with 10-plus goals last year. In points, English 25, James Matten 25, Spencer Wertheim had 22, had 15 assists. He was their second leading guy in assists. In fact, Ryan Levy, senior, had 14. And then, it just kind of drops off. The midfield, we talked about this, I think, before last year in 2024, where UNC just flat out did not have a midfield at all. Their top 3 leading scorers had scored 89 goals, and then 12, 8, 8, 8, 5. Again, last year, the midfield just wasn't there. And some of the freshmen kind of came. We looked at the freshmen, like Caden Harshbarger. I remember he scored a goal early against Michigan. It was like, okay, this is one of the guys. 12 points as a freshman. Pretty good, but I think he wanted a little bit more. Mason Suchek, freshman, kind of came on late. 9 goals, 7 assists. Pretty good. Brevin Wilson, freshman, 7 goals, 2 assists. Can any of these guys get better? And then also I would go with the other point. A big freshman class. You're not gonna believe this. Carolina has a lot of really like 5-star big freshmen coming in. Gary Merrill's the big one. Can any of these freshmen like come in and be like? I remember the thing with Carolina that makes them so interesting to me is when Carolina is good like almost immediately. Like no team. I feel like there's no team where it's a gap where like when Carolina is good, it just pops off the page. It's like, oh, that's what it looks like. And then when it doesn't have that vibe, it's like, no, that's not it. Like, I don't know. They used to have guys, freshmen, just like leap off the page like immediately. Like Goldstock. Remember Goldstock? So like came out of like 40 goals. Boom. I'm here. Like guys at Carolina used to just before you even like knew their name, it was like they were on the scene, and it was we're off from here, and or at least as a kind of sophomore. So maybe like Sankey and Bitter like really popped off as sophomores, and maybe that's even as freshmen though they were pretty darn pretty darn good. I don't know. I just one of these guys, these UNC. I mean, Duffy was obvious. We knew Duffy was going to be. We knew Duffy was going to be great. We knew Petrus was going to be great. They bring in so many of these guys. Some of them's got to hit. Like they just have to. We talk about the player. I think you mentioned one of the last, like the player development at UNC. It's got to come through, man. Like I know those two guys are great, but some of these other guys just have to. They got to be a step taken. Like it can't be like Owen Duffy's gonna have 3 goals and Petro's gonna have 6 goals, and then we're gonna score 11 goals as a team.
What, Jake? I don't know how they do it, but they got to even out the distribution of shots. You said one thing that they can improve on, and I think that's it. Owen, and I love young Petro. I love young Petro. And Duffy also is one of my favorite players out there. Combined, shot 272 times.
That's insane, dog.
Do you know how much the next 7 players on North Carolina shot combined? That's it. I hate when people do that, but it's just for effect.
Yeah, 250.
273. From Matan to Dewey Egan. That was the other one. I think you maybe just added Dewey's in there for 21 shots. But from Matan to Dewey Egan, 273 total shots amongst them. And 272 for young Petro and, big time Duffy. Love those 2 players. 2 of my favorite players, dynamic, exciting, just charismatic.
Honestly, here's even, let's not count Egan, but like, let's just do Matten to Ty English to Brevin Wilson, which is UNC's next 8 scorers, 279. Their top 2 scorers took 272. Their next 9 scorers took 279 shots. I gotta tweet that. You could go, but like that's nuts. That's insane.
Yeah. 58 for Matan. I'm just double checking this out. 58 for Ty. 41 for Spencer. 38 for Caden. 30 for Ryan Levy. That gives us 225 right there. Plus 27 for Mason. 252. Dewey is 21. 273. And then plus Brevin is 19. 292. So 292 from Brevin Wilson to James Matan, and 272 for just young Petro and Duffy. Just amazing.
That's insane, dude. And I mean, Duffy shot 27%. Not great. I'm like he's a great player. Might win the Torreton this year. 27% is not. It's not great. Petro 32%. You take that at that volume. 32%. You take that every day of the week. That is wow. That's striking. Cornell, Cornell, I think is a good comparison because Crosse was like just so much of their And like he was the the sun, the everything else ordered around him. Crosse took 176 shots. Goldstein took 112. So that those two guys combined for 288 shots. You got Long, Firth, Kelleher.
How many games is that though, right? 18 games?
True, yeah. Like, yeah, that's definitely. How many games do UNC play?
Duffy did this in 15.
That's nuts. All right, here you go. Crosse and Goldstein took 288 shots. The next four guys on Cornell took 276. And they put up 31 goals, 27 goals, 16 goals. That's kind of what it looks like. Like it, yeah. I think that's a great, and that's a great way of looking at it. Like I feel like this maybe goes. I don't know. I feel like this goes hand in hand. I think if you've got more guys you trust, more guys to take shot. But on the other hand, it does feel a little bit like, man, at some point you got you just got to find shots for guys. Like
that's what you always say. Sometimes you just got to take it yourself. Like,
yeah,
I know, I know, young Petro's going like this, but maybe you just make it run.
I mean, the Richmond game, Duffy had 3 goals and 2 assists, and Dom had 3 goals. That's really good, and they lost by 3. The shot in that game is insane. Duffy and Petro took 21 shots. The rest of the team took 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22 shots. They took half the shots in the Richmond game. In the Duke game, they lost.
They're taking 18 shots just by themselves. Every single game. I extrapolated it. If they did play 18 games, they would have taken a combined 326 shots.
Insane, bro. I mean, like, here's what I'm saying. I think Duffy's got he's an awesome player. And I mean his dodging, and like he's electrifying when he gets going. I think he might need to become into one of those, like, there's a lot of different ways you can be a great attackman. Crosse was like Jared Bernhardt-esque. It was like, I'm going to the goal and you got to stop me. Then there was kind of we got used to kind of like the Spencer Sowers, sort of like, I think Duffy, I'm not saying I think it's got to lean more towards that kind of guy. Like Duffy's got to be the point guard. He's got to set everyone else up. I think for Duffy, like, I think a good sort of maybe comp of like just mold, not style necessarily, but like guy to kind of follow as who you kind of are as, and he's closer to this already than I think, like, than this guy I'm gonna mention. But like in Matt Rambo's senior year, he took 150 shots in 19 games, so he took plenty of shots. He took 8 shots per game. He finished with more assists than goals. He finished with 44 assists to 42 goals. And he was the guy who came in as dodge a goal scorer. I think Duffy's got to become it's got to be, you can dodge, but when you dodge, look to pass. Because if Petro is going to take as many shots as Petro takes, that 1-2 combo has to become more. I mean, yeah, there's balance, there's nuance in all this. Like, I'm not saying Duffy needs to be Grant Ament, because he's probably not as good passer as Ament is. And I think he's more probably dynamic dodger than Ament was. So, but if you're going to have that kind of 1-2 sort of combo that those guys have, it has to be, it's understanding role. Like, if Duffy's feeding Petro, Duffy also it can't be for Duffy like option A, feed Petro. Option B, I shoot myself. Like, you got to find the other guys too. Like, and I think that's what it is. Like, Duffy has to it has to be a, my first roll is dodge to pass, and then I can dodge the score once that kind of plays off it. Once opponents start to hedge to the assist, dodge yourself. But the past 2 years, it's been I either pass to Petro or I just take it myself, and that diet isn't quite. I don't think that's enough.
That the template's there. Chris Gray's 2021 season, I think. Perfect.
Yeah.
49 and 42 goals to assist. In 16 games, only took 144 shots. There were games where he took as few as 3 multiple times. Single digits, but as low as 3, with like pretty much more than half of the games he took about like 9 or less. 5 goals here, 5 shots there, 7 there. But there was games were just insanely productive. 8 shots against Duke in their regular season win with 6 total points.
That's the other thing. Chris Gray shot 33%. I mean, like Chris Gray was.
Because to your point, if they know we can just seal off the one guy he is going to pass to, and then kind of clamp down when it comes to it's going to be much more difficult to shoot.
Yeah, and also
they're playing you more honest because there's 3 other people you could potentially pass to besides.
How many shots did Duffy? Duffy took how many shots again?
Oh, I sorry, just went off that screen, but it was I think he got 130 or something like that. Sorry,
I can probably find it.
No, I got it right here. My bad. Shots were for him were 124, 148 for Young Petro.
So 140, 124 and 15. That's 8 shots per game, and he shot, as we said, he shot 27%. Chris Gray was like a 34% shooter. Chris Gray as an attackman. Chris Gray's vertical shooting ability for an attackman is some of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like that dude could. I'm not saying Duffy's a bad shooter. He's not. But it's again, know your skills. If his skills are he's incredibly fast, quick twitch, fearless going to the goal. Awesome. Your goals, your shot the shot chart. Your shot chart needs to be in that area. Your shot chart doesn't need to be. The more your shot chart extends, the worse it is. Listen, you have to take them, obviously. No one's saying, but Duffy's shots, you either get your shot in tight, go into the goal, or maybe you get it on the wing if someone leaves you a course, or you're passing to Petro and all these other guys. He's got to become the focal point of the offense, and he is, but it's different. It's setting up all, being the quarterback really. And I do think you're right. It does feel like when you watch that offense, it feels like those two guys are playing their own game.
Yeah, it's like a 3-man game. Yeah,
they're just playing themselves, and the other guys kind of just there's the Duffy Petro offense, and there's the other guy's offense. And I think there has to be there's got to be a marriage there. Some of it I do think is, but also some of these guys. Ty English shot 35%. And he took 58 shots. I think that guy could get 20 more shots. It's
if it was one thing of you had a bunch of other guys with just single digits and goals. You have Matan, English.
Ryan Levy shot 50% and took 30 shots.
So I'm saying, these guys who are kind of show that give us, we'll do something with it, and it goes to that trust level of you can obviously trust Young Petro, I can trust Duffy, and vice versa, but it's just get at least 2 or 3 other guys in there that seem more than capable of producing, and it's given the opportunities. And again, maybe it's what we kind of said. Maybe these guys got to take it. Maybe they could go for a pass, and then let me do it, and then that then frees up Petro and Duffy. Is this guy's independently something that we got to concern ourselves about.
Mm-hmm.
That just makes things less. Yeah, just less volume shooting, more teamwork. That's one place where I would improve if I was coach on the coaching staff, or had if I could bend old Petro's ear or senior Petro. I don't call him old.
I also think for those guys, we talk about health. Can they get through a full season? There is, Duffy, both Duffy's this 2 seasons. Freshman year he got hurt and missed time of his year. Last year he looked kind of banged. He looked banged up towards the end. Look, he still had some good games. Definitely the Richmond game he was, he played really well. But there were other games kind of down the stretch there. Like Richmond game, he had 3 goals and 2 assists. But in the 4 games before that, Duke, Notre Dame, Cuse, and then Duke again in the ACC tournament, 2 goals in 4 games, and he shot 2 for 24 in that stretch. Which, yeah, again, maybe the shot diet could be a bit, but like
Joe the boss needs to just like pull up and be like, let's just try to get some other people involved, just a little bit more this year. That's all I'm asking.
He never took fewer than 5 shots in a game last year, and he took against Hopkins. He took 16 shots. Shot 4 for 16. Against Princeton, he took 10 shots, shot 3 for 10. The Jacksonville game, yeah, I mean, you're not going to complain. He shot 6 for 12. Virginia, 3 for 11. It's a lot. It's a lot of shots, man. But there definitely seem to be in that, and the other thing is he doesn't turn the ball over that much. I mean, 29 turnovers for how much he has the ball is not bad. Like, he's not, I mean, he has plenty of games here where he has 1 turnover, 1 turnover, 1, 1, 0. Like the guy can protect the ball. Pass it to him, brother. But yeah, he definitely looked towards the end a little, banged up towards the end of the year. Petra obviously missed the year himself, and then I think he had a minor injury kind of as well. Can those guys just hold up? The other one I have for UNC, you lose Gianfrancaro. I think that could be room to improve. They bring in Josh Marcus, the freshman, who was along with Dash, like one of the top goalie recruits in the country in this class. We know freshman goalies, we always talk about it. There's some questions you can have, especially as you get towards the tournament, but some guys take the net early and it goes. I think if he's great right off the bat, I do think that's potentially really big for that team. Kind of filling in the net. So that's kind of the other question I have with them is, and then like the young guys, like they need some of these fresh, like some of these guys got to step up and you got to live up to their billing. They're 5-star recruits, potentially touted as future All-Americans. They got to play like it. So we'll see.
Some predictions. Yeah,
I think only other one I had kind of similar along the lines of UNC, and I kind of mentioned this, Ohio State. Where does it get better? Kind of is because I think that defense, just the fact like they can bank on that being a top 5 defense in the country. Can the defense be better than it was last year? That it was so good, and it was so the year before that. You got Van Buren, you got Colin Brown, both All-Americans. Fayok. They do lose some guys, from that shorty group. I kind of wonder. They kind of converted a lot of guys who were kind of previously had been offensive midfielders and turned them into defensive midfielders, and it led to a really successful, really athletic, and strong short stick defensive midfield group. But you do lose a couple of those guys from the group. Still got some talented guys. Blake Island comes back as a senior. He's really strong there. But no Ari Allen, no Greg Langermeyer. Ari Allen was another guy, was a offensive guy converted. So losing from some of that shorty depth, we talk about you're only as good as your best short stick defensive midfielders, and they had one of, if not the best groups in the country last year. But yeah, like the defense, I just don't know if it gets better. So my question is, where does the improvement come? Save percentage again. You figure Fayok's going to be what he is. Face-off play, maybe they were 27th in face-off efficiency last year. Can it maybe find a bit of improvement in that department? You bring Jack Oldman back. Can he kind of take another step? Possibly. The offense is the interesting part, and I will say I love the hire of James Purpura, who obviously did a great job as the head coach of VMI, and I think is a really sharp offensive mind. And look, Ohio State's offense, huge improvement from where they've been the year before and the year prior. It was, by adjusted offensive efficiency, it was basically the second best offense Nick Myers has had at Ohio State. So it was awesome. But the way that in which it was good was in a very specific way that fit how Ohio State likes to play. When we talk Ohio State, they don't really, it's not super fancy, what they did last year. But it was very effective. They had so many guys. If you can look, obviously Marinier is, the big shooter, and one of the probably the best shooter in the country. Again, we talk about a guy, taking a lot of shots. Alex Marinier shot 43%. That's pretty deadly. But there was Ohio State had 9 guys scored 10 plus goals last year. That's more than 2 midfields deep of, that's basically, that's 2 midfields deep in your starting attack, all putting up, 10 plus goals for you. But aside from Garrett Haas and Jack McKenna, it all was done in a very similar way. Like, the numbers are so evenly dispersed and just straightforward. Liam White, 11 goals, 6 assists on 40 shots. Ben Mayer, 12 goals, 8 assists on 41 shots. Shane O'Leary, 15 goals, 5 assists on 66 shots. Gannon Matthews, 18 goals, 6 assists on 56 shots. Ryan Donnery, 19 goals, 6 assists, 51 shots. Ed Sheen, 19 goals, 6 assists, 43 shots. It was an assembly line of midfielders who could dodge and beat their man and were pretty good shooters. And they just ran those dudes out there, and they said, we're going to keep running these dudes out there. Every guy we put out here is capable of dodging and can beat you. What do you got? And sometimes if the opponent was good enough to stop them, that was it. Like Notre Dame, could hang in there with their Notre Dame shorties, could hang and stop them, and that was it. They lose a lot of those guys. Ben Mayer, Jack McKenna, Gannon Matthews, Ryan Donnery. Actually, they lose a lot of those dudes. And they still, obviously Marinier back, obviously Haas back, Melendez comes in. That makes a great attack unit. Their attack unit is going to be awesome next year. Maybe Haas moves to the midfield potentially. Maybe you try and do that, but that's kind of question is, their offense was good in exactly how Ohio State wants their offense to be good. And I wonder how you replicate that. I just don't know any way that they can be as deep as they were. And again, Ohio State as a team, 26th in the country in assist percentage. They're not a lot of passing. Their leading assister has 18. But as far as, 5th in the country in shooting percentage, and just a bunch of dudes who evenly, a nice shot diet, even variety, and so many dudes who could dodge and shoot. And I just kind of wonder if they can replicate that. I think it has to be different. And maybe different could work. If Melendez stays healthy for the entire year, that kind of that could be it. For them. But I don't know. That's kind of thing about how do they get better than they were. That's the whole thing. We've seen Myers talking about it. We got to the cusp of Mount Everest, and now we want to get, to the top. Where does the team get better from 2025? And offense feels like an area where I don't think it's going to be bad, but it does feel like it has to be a lot. The style has to be a lot different.
They have to be able to comfortably get into double digits. I think that's what happened to them with the Notre Dame. Just kind of go through that Big Ten gauntlet. You just barely level above a rock fight. And sometimes in some of these games, and then you go against like a Notre Dame that could just after that kind of soft first 20 minutes of the game, they kind of just move doors wide open, and Ohio State just couldn't respond. You are right. It's kind of like a hollowing out of their offense. You still got the Sheen with Marinier and Haas, and bringing in Melendez, but you're essentially losing 6 of your next top scorers before you get to Liam White, who's going to be a good contribution.
Sheen,
come back with 11 goals.
They lose. They bring back Marinier. They bring back Haas. Sheen is gone.
Right, Donnery's gone.
Donnery's gone. Matthews is gone. O'Leary's gone. McKenna is gone. Mayer is you lose your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th leading scorers.
Yeah.
You bring in some guys. They do bring in some guys. Brad Sharp from Yale is a good player. And then of course Melendez comes in. So there's patchwork, but that is and Griffin Turner as well, who was their leading guy in assists. He's gone as well. That's kind of my concern. Is I love Marinier. I really like Haas. We know what Melendez can do, but that is a lot of. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. That's just so many guys who were really good players. And so I think you're right. Like the Notre Dame game is a great example. In that game, clearly they were missing like one guy you could kind of go to. So maybe that's different now. Can Haas take a leap? Can Melendez be that? Can they find more like one guy they can go to? Because last year it worked so well for them, having such an even variety of shots and kind of possessions. I don't know. They're going to be a good team. I just kind of wonder. As you talk about, that's kind of the whole thing with them is like they want to get to the top. Where does it get to the top? How you do it? Anything else for you, Sif?
Nah.
All right.
Good.
Predictions. Where do you want to start?
Let's go Ivy.
All right. Safe Ivy League. Give me the champion and give me a team to watch.
Princeton champion.
Yep.
I went in early and I'm going to stick with it. Penn Quaker's going to do better than we think. I think 500 is raised minimum or basement. And dancing with the 4th seed in the Ivy League tournament.
Say that again. Penn's going to be the 4th seed in the Ivy League tournament?
It's where I'm like, I think they're going to be at least 500, return 500. And I think, we'd be in the conversation for the 4th seed in the last few weeks of the Ivy.
Okay. I'm going to say Princeton on top. I am wary because we've talked about Cornell's won, what is it, 7 in a row or 6 in a row in that rivalry? No, it's 22, 23, 24, 2 and 25. So, 6. Cornell's won 6 in a row in that rivalry. The game is in 1952 this year. Granted, the last couple times, the game you were at, the tax game. And then there was the game. You were at both. You were at the game in 22 as well, where Cornell just kind of came on and stunted on him a little bit.
Oh, yeah. That was
kind of caught him. There was like a right hook to the Cornell caught him like a right hook to the face in the first 2 minutes, and it was like Princeton just never got. Yeah, Princeton never got kind of back in the game. So I am wary about that a bit, but I just think the talent Princeton has on offense, I think, could be overwhelming. I mean, on our preseason All-American team, I'll give a hint here. Princeton has at attack, they've got Nate Kabiri. At midfield, they've got Chad Palumbo and Tucker Wade. So that's 3 guys in the offense we give All-American votes to. There's Chad Burns, who's awesome. There's Peter Bonanno, who's terrific. Might have an injury. Or Palumbo, I think it was. I kind of picked up an injury late in that Cuse game, maybe kind of come back from that. That's just so much talent. And you still got, it feels like they finally figured out face-off towards the end of the year with McMeekin, and you got Ryan Croddick in goal. Like, the floor for a team that has an All-American goalie a really good face-off guy and a top 5 offense is just so high. Like that's it's just so high, and I just think Cornell's going to take some time to find their sea legs, who they are without Kirst. I think Princeton's team. I'm going to go Yale as my team to watch out for. I can talk about it. I just think, it needed a reset, and it seems like Shea is committed to a reset. We're going to get back to our identity, our foundations, who we are. Again, Yale was built on defense. They had Ben Reeves and they had Brandon, all those guys, but Yale was built. What got them to that dance was defense, and I think getting back to that's going to make them for a better team. I'm going to say Yale's going to finish 3rd in the Ivy. I don't know that they're going to get to Princeton and Cornell, but I think Yale. I mean, they were 4th last year. I think they're going to be better than Harvard. There's my kind of hot take on the Ivy. I think Yale's going to be better than Harvard.
I was at the Lawrence Fishburne meet.
All right. Next, let's do the ACC. Safe. I mean, it's always tricky with the ACC. I mean, what have they? But let's say, who's the best team in the ACC this year, and who's your one to watch?
Best team, Syracuse.
Okay.
Let me change my dark horse to match this. Notre Dame. Big time class coming in.
Hang on. We're not doing this again. No. I'm looking at your dark horse. It's a completely ethical, honest pick. It's on.
Ethical journalism.
It's ethical. It's real. It's mature. It's It's adult. It's an adult.
It's an adult selection. Yeah, you're right.
They're not ranked in the top 20. Like it's just.
I don't want to go negative, but I'll stick with it. Yeah, Duke's the team to watch because I don't think they're going to make the tournament.
A reverse. Wow.
That was my hot take going into the new year. I remember our last pod, and I just kind of feel it. I just kind of feel it's. I think it's just a tightrope. With the schedule, like you're going to have to kill your non-conference slate. Definitely win the Cornell game, and go 2-2 in the conference. And I think that doesn't leave much room for error. And I mean,
one of our friends at Mike Johnson _2 on Twitter has been a long-time listener. Asked with the laugh emoji. He's a UNC fan for context. Does Duke win an ACC game?
That's it. And I just don't see especially if they lose the Cornell game, and they go 1-3 in the ACC.
Oh, it's over. It's done.
It's like that scene I always refer to in Philip Seymour Hoffman in The Ides of March. I was like, and then it's just math, Jake.
That's it. It's not. They would have to win the ACC tournament in that case. Like they have to. They have
the
to get
unofficial AQ. Exactly.
Yeah, they have to win it. Like no questions asked. I think they will win an ACC. I think they'll win an ACC. Yeah, I think 1-3. That's a great way of looking at it, Safe. Because the ACC is hard because it's like, who's really like team to watch? Virginia. I mean, wow, yeah. Watch out for the 2-time national champions in the last 5 years. I think that's
the national title game.
Yeah, hosting the national. Yeah, I think that's a great call. I love that. Mine is going to be, I don't know. I don't know if the UNC team takes off the way. Here's what I'll say. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen come. I don't know. I'll put it this way. Here's what I'll say. That's maybe not. You will know early. If UNC breaks out in February, they play Towson early. If they beat Towson by 8 goals, and then they go and play Princeton a couple weeks later, and they play Hopkins 2 weeks after that. That Hopkins UNC rivalry is it's totally flipped. The road team has always had the advantage. So it's at Chapel Hill this year. If they beat Hopkins by 6 and they go play Princeton, they beat Princeton. There you go. UNC is we are in full. The Rocket is we are approaching space. If they lose to Hopkins week 3 at home, and they may lose, I'm not saying it means the season's obviously not over, but I don't know if it means that it's going to take off to the degree we think. And that's just kind of my vibe with UNC is I remember 2021. Within like the first 2 weeks, it was like, I think UNC is the best team in the country. Like, it was like Chris Gray got in there, like, and we saw Gray before. Even 2020, like, when they're good, man, they come out and it's just like, I don't know how you keep up with those guys. they're just running like gazelles out there in the midfield, who are just going end to end, and they'll score the game. The vintage UNC thing is like you turn on the game like early in the second quarter, and it's like 5-3, and you're like, oh, interesting game. 5 minutes later, it's 10-3 UNC, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna go do something else.
Yeah.
Like that's what they do, and when they're good, early. Like again, 2021, their first game, they beat Denver 24-13. 2020, when obviously it was a shortened year, but they beat Hopkins 17-10, and they beat Denver after that. Even those old UNC teams, going back to like 2015, beat Hopkins early, beat Denver at home. Like, with that team pretty early usually, like if it's on and on. And that's one thing is like, if they blow out Towson out early and then they beat Hopkins a couple weeks after that and they beat Princeton and there's some gaudy goal totals in there, it's going to be a big UNC year. If it's a little more mute, that doesn't mean that I think they're going to not be a factor, but I think it means that maybe it's not national championship type, team. I'm also on Syracuse. I think Syracuse is going to win the league this year. I just think they're the most complete team in the league. I have the fewest questions about Syracuse. I have questions about them that I think might, but the question is like, does it keep them from winning the championship? Overall, I have the fewest questions about that team. All right, Safe, last one, Big Ten.
Maryland to win. I like your takes over the winter. We were talking about that. But yeah, I'm going Rutgers. I hope I didn't stay with the Thunder, but I'm going Rutgers as the team to watch. You kind of have a little bit of the Safe Fakadu doctrine where, a lot of close losses last year, a good amount returning. Like the defense, came up big. We kind of always talk about you can't, the Super Bowl can't be beating Maryland in the regular season. It needs to be a little bit grander.
Yeah.
But like that kind of showed you, like, when playing their best or at least most strident defense, like, they could just slow the ball down, slow the game down to a crawl and, just keep it into like, first team to 8 type of game. But yeah, schedule is favorable to them. Got a good amount of games in at Rutgers and Brunswick. I'm hesitating because I think maybe the Big Ten tournament is at Rutgers. Is that my off or no?
Who was it at last year? Michigan?
Yeah.
It was at Michigan. Yeah, 21 was at. Yeah, I think it's Rutgers' turn in the rotation, I believe, because it started with
Piscataway. I'm looking at their site. Yeah, hosted the Big Ten tournament. So kind of things align. Good like home slate. Get Penn State at home. We'll have to go to Maryland for the Terps game. But you get Hopkins at home. You get Ohio State at home. That's kind of the schedule that you would like if you're a Rutgers fan. Always a fun time to go down there. For the Sunday games and like they play Hop tough when Hop comes to Piscataway. Ohio State, can be gotten, especially if both teams like to play that game, like single digits, like just ball control, and that just kind of invariably means Rutgers can stay in those type of games if you're playing their type of style. So yeah, kind of like their schedule, like kind of like you said, early the Army game. To me, that's always the barometer of Rutgers' season.
I'll be honest, like, this is gonna sound kind of crazy, folks. I think that Army Rutgers game, if you were to take like, what's the one specific game? This is a preview for a thing I'm gonna have for us on Friday. What's like the biggest game relative to both teams' NCAA tournament hopes? Army Rutgers.
Yeah.
If it's like it is on February, whatever, it's like a knockout game. If you lose that game, you're probably not making the tournament.
It's a fork in the road. Absolutely. Like compound interest. You just keep building against it. You lose that game.
It's probably it, dude. It's wild, but for Rutgers, that's like their second biggest non-con game, like right there.
Yeah.
That's huge. I agree. Maryland is the champion. I agree. Safe, it's wild. We've done this almost like 2 hours, 3 minutes. We barely talked about Maryland. Barely talked about Maryland.
Well,
Barely talked about
they
Hughes.
took a lot of the oxygen when we were talking about the poll at the beginning.
True, for sure. Yeah. It kind of feels like a Maryland year. Like it just. I mean, I think there's some injury concern a little bit maybe. But you look at the team and you're like, there's not a weakness, really. I don't. Their kind of question is like, do they have do they have enough high end offensive talent? It's like, I mean, I think they've got guys who could take the leap. I think Spanos could. I think Leo Johnson from Yale could. Like goalie, I guess. But it's a luxury to be able to replace your like All American goalie with a guy who already like basically started an entire season for you. And I think Gruber will be good. It's not Mac for sure, but I think Gruber will be good. Yeah, I think they're going to be the top team. I think Penn State's going to be better than people think. I think Penn State. I don't know. I think
better than what we think. I mean, we think.
Okay. All right. I'll throw it out there. I think Penn State's gonna make the Final Four again.
Ooh, there we go.
I'm not sure how much, because not to spoil it, like for our preseason prediction on Friday, nobody had mentioned them, so I kind of was just like, all right, let me throw them in there. I don't know, dude. Tams has kind of got it rolling. And they have to replace Trainer, which that's a big loss. But man, they had to replace TJ Malone too, and I thought that was, gonna be, and they did it. After 24. And I look at the guys they have. I mean, Aquino as a freshman was awesome right off the bat. 37 points, more assists than goals as a freshman. He might be playing attack maybe, but Liam Matthews, awesome. That guy broke in the Final Four. Kyle Lehman, sophomore, like he had a really good year. They have so many talented guys back there. They get Alex Ross back as a, first team, kind of maybe second team All-American type long pole. They finally figured out the face-off dot. Like they're like strong. A team that's really strong. With Colby Baldwin, they got two face-off guys with Baldwin and Reed Gills. I don't know. I look at that team and I thought they were good last year. Maybe not great. Like they were solid. They were 10th in offensive efficiency, 9th in defensive efficiency, 5th in face-off. What would really hurt them at sort of was Afrasian. And I think if they can kind of keep it going at goalie, I don't know. I think the pieces are there for that team to be really, really good again. And I don't know. I just get the vibe. I think they're going to be. I think Tams is like. For a long time, we asked like, when is it going to happen for them? And then it happened. And then it was like, all right, it happened, but like, when's it going to stick to where they are like? I think he's got to figure it out. Like, I think they're just like a year in, year out tournament, quarterfinal. Like, I think they're there. I think in the future, if they miss the tournament, it's a surprise. It's not going to be where it's like, I think it's like, okay, they missed the tournament. Yeah, that happens. I don't know. I think we talk like, again, to go back to that Big Ten thing of like, the Big Ten's like the yo-yo. Like you build up that senior class, then you lose it, and like you come back down. I think I think Maryland's definitely not there, obviously. But I think Ohio State, Hopkins, Rutgers, they all kind of seem in that spot right now. Where like, they get a big senior class and they have a great year, and then after it's like, what do we do? I think Penn State's kind of gotten off that ride. Like I don't think Penn State's like we build up to a great. I think it's just we just reload. I think they've kind of graduated to that point. And so I think they're going to be top. I think they'll have a home game in the tournament again. I think they could make the Final Four again, for sure. So there you go. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Of like non-legacy teams, that the next one that could pop off in a almost Notre Dame style. I do feel you, like Penn State being that. Like already huge school. They got that stadium that's just picturesque. Like. Fans really get into it, like kind of saw like the hometown energy in 2019, and then in 2023 when it was in Philly, they also had another Final Four as well last year. But yeah, I feel like this could be. You're right, like the beginning of like a long like run for Penn State of like really high sustained success, and it's kind of crazy. Get. Tams went through almost a decade of just like futility in the tournament, and now 3 Final Fours since 2019. They could really go on a substantial run here. I like it.
All right, that's it. Went deep in the bag on this one. Friends, we will be back Friday live on YouTube for our 2026 season preview show. We're going to talk storylines. We're going to talk predictions, All-Americans, all that good stuff. Join us. It's always a good time in the chat. We've got a good crew. Excited to have Ryan back. So make sure you join us for that. Make sure to do that. Subscribe on YouTube. We've gotten some good numbers on these last couple videos. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/lacrosse commission. Like this video when it goes up with a thumbs up. Go back, watch the old ones if you've missed them. And again, we'll be live on Friday. And then, come hell or high water with the weather, we will be live next Saturday, January the 31st, after the games have gone final. Probably a little earlier start time because it's mostly a noon heavy slate. And there's a lot of Sunday games. We will be live January the 31st on YouTube for our first power hour of the season. If you don't know what it is, we hit 1 hour on the clock and we break down all the results and action from that Saturday's games. So make sure to come join us for that. And then once that happens, we'll be in the groove of weekly pods breaking down the action for the season. So we're almost there. Only about 11 more days after today. All right, Safe, anything else?
No, Jake, I love it. Can't wait, man. Let's go for it.
Let's do it. We're Safe. We're ripping it.
Cinnamon back, Jake.
Let's get this rip.
Oh my God. Yeah.
All right, friends. Stay hydrated. Thanks, Mr. President. We'll see you out there. Take care.